kwa sababu ya mabadiliko haya.
Patients who are admitted before today will however continue to use SHA.
La pili ni wagonjwa waliolazwa kabla ya tarehe 24 ama Jumatatu. Ikiwa uko katika hospitali na ulilazwa, wagonjwa ambao walilazwa chini ya mpango wa SHA ama MKL kabla ya tarehe ya kusitisha huduma, wataendelea kupata matibabu bila usumbufu wowote. Kwa hivyo kama umelazwa hospitalini na ulikuwa admitted ama umepangiwa kufanyiwa upasuaji ama procedure kabla ya tarehe 24 mwezi huu wa pili, kabla ya Jumatatu, hakuna mabadiliko yoyote ambayo yatatendeka. Utaendelea kufanyiwa hiyo huduma na matibabu kulingana na ile ule mkataba ambao tuko nao na SHA na MKL.
And patients who will not be able to receive medical attention after the suspension will also be provided with alternative options, among them cash payments. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has continued his attacks on President William Ruto, this time around warning him against proceeding with any plans to remove Chief Justice Martha Koome from office. Speaking in Meru, Gachagua claimed that President Ruto is plotting to remove Justice Koome because of her stance of refusing to favour the government in court cases, saying this could prompt protests.
Umeamua kumaliza watoto wote kutoka mlima. Kiongozi yeyote ambaye hako na msimamo, umetupangia jama ya kutufukuza katika serikali katika Kenya. Na anataka akifukuza hii watu amalize biashara zote za watu ya mlima Kenya. Lakini mimi nakuambia rais, ukifukuza Martha Koome usikanyange hapa Meru. Mimi nataka nikuambie, ulifukuza Rigathi Gachagua, watu ya mlima wakanyamaza. Ukafikiria ni waoga. Tunakuambia rais, wewe panga jama, ufukuze Martha Koome, na wewe ukae Nairobi, usikanyange hapa Meru tena ukifukuza Martha Koome.
Meanwhile, Gachagua has dismissed the significance of the meetings that have been held at the residence of Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, calling them strategies to persuade leaders to support an administration that has completely failed to serve the people.
Na hakuna haja wewe kuita watu Nairobi, kuja hapa Igembe uongee na watu hapa kwa ground. Si ndio? Ile mambo nafanyika pale ni uongo mtupu. Unapanga watu masaa 5 kuwadanganya, alafu unawalipa shilingi 5,000 kwa kusikiza uongo. Sasa hata hii wa Meru, hata kama unadharau wa Meru, kupatia shilingi 5,000 kusikiza uongo masaa 5, si ni kukosea wa Meru aibu? Kuwakosea heshima. Na wale akaunti zingine unawapatia 10,000. Wengine ya Kiambu unawapatia 20,000. Lakini kwa sababu ya kudharau wa Meru, unaenda unawapanga kwa vikundi.
And moving on is in the international scene, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Israel was prepared or is prepared to resume fighting against Hamas after the Palestinian group accused it of endangering a 5-week-old Gaza truce by suspending prisoner release. The first phase of the truce, which has largely halted more than 15 months of devastating war in the Gaza Strip, is due to expire in early March, and details of a planned subsequent phase have not been agreed. With tensions again surging over the deal, Israel on Sunday announced an expansion of military operations against Palestinian militants in the occupied West Bank, where violence has soared throughout the Gaza war. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Medical emergencies don't wait for payday, so why should you? Picture this: you or a loved one falls sick. The hospital bill sky high. The stress overwhelming. But with Jubilee Health Insurance, you don't have to panic. Affordable health covers from just 200 shillings per month. Lipa pole pole. Get covered now. Pay in easy installments. Access to over 800 hospitals plus telemedicine and free drug delivery. SMS health to 40643. Call 0709 949 000 or visit www.jubileeinsurance.com. Jubilee Health Insurance. Your health, your peace of mind. Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room. The only way to...
And a very good morning.
Somebody's still talking when I'm trying to talk. I don't know what's wrong with that guy who says this is the Situation Room. He didn't see that I was here?
He did, but he was completing his sentence.
He was not supposed to be talking. Amma, he was supposed to
Had
talk.
you informed him in advance?
We had agreed that it's me now, my turn.
It's you and your agreements. Agreements.
Good morning, CT.
Morning, do.
How are you?
Fine.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yes.
So what did you do? I actually want to know what you did.
This weekend was an interesting one.
Here we go.
Among the things that I did, I had some interesting debates. On Friday, there is an X-Space discussion I had with Njerithon.
I joined your X-Space, actually.
What did you think?
I thought it was actually quite exhilarating. The world of politics is one where we all live in. However, the insights that you give when you realize, from an opinion perspective are quite... the word has left me. The one I was looking for.
They're quite the word has left me.
Thank you. Yes. But you understand what I'm saying, Abi?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I like that expression. The word has left me. It's a very all-encompassing statement. Yes, rich in innuendo. Yes. Yes.
But that was only Friday.
There are some promises I had made I thought I would keep. Haki slipped my mind completely. The friend had a birthday. Irungu Houghton. I'd been invited.
You didn't go?
Sorry, I was remembering on Sunday.
And it was on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
Then I was invited for a certain do by Standard Chartered on Sunday. Me, I agreed because in my mind I thought it was Saturday.
Right.
And my Saturday was obliterated.
Right.
So Sunday,
even the one you was agreed to go on Saturday, you didn't go?
Yes, the one I was supposed to go on Sunday, I thought it was Saturday.
Okay.
So Sunday I was remembering, and this was at 6:30, and I said, I can't go anywhere because I have to sleep early. So I was busy making my apologies. Now, in a summary, I've told you what my weekend was.
Confused. All the things that you were supposed to do, you actually didn't do, except the one.
No, there's one I did. I had a very, very lively political and economical discussion with my daughter.
Yeah.
She was keen to find out certain things. She says, look, you work and talk about these things every day. I want to pick your brain. So she decided to pick my brain, and she picked it for something like 3 hours.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Wow. Is she here?
Yes.
Okay.
Is she here?
No, as in
she's
Kenya.
not in the studio.
No, she's actually not in the studio.
Okay.
You remind me of that movie where that young boy says, I see dead people. No, she's not actually here.
Okay. For the sake of the listener.
She's not actually here. Anki, how are you?
Very good, dude. I love this. I love the preliminaries that have come from CT. It's exciting to hear how his weekend was. I wish my weekend was just as... No, the good part, where it was successful. That is very, very intriguing. And that your daughter would have that conversation with you. I like that engagement.
Anki, this is unusual. My weekends are usually
Quiet.
completely quiet and boring, and nothing happens throughout.
Oh yeah.
Yes, this is an anomaly. Believe me.
So which one excites you more? This one, right?
This one was good, as long as it's in small doses.
But next time, please mark your diary.
Small doses, please.
I had a great weekend.
Someone taught me how to mark my diary on my phone.
Oh, yeah?
And my phone was actually informing me, and I thought there was something wrong with the phone.
Oh, yeah? Oh, wow.
Just making noises.
Oh, it actually tried to give you a hint.
Yes.
You ignored it.
No, I knew there's something wrong with the phone. I said,
Oh,
this phone is
Lord.
old. I need to buy a new one.
Okay. I'm not giving up on you yet.
I am.
You did?
I'm done. I'm done with this guy. Yeah. How was your weekend, Anki?
No, I loved it. I think for me, though, it was more calm, quiet. I didn't do much, though. I was just chilling, playing around with the babies, family time entirely. But I did follow up on, what's happening with Russia, Ukraine. Those unilateral conversations between the US and Russia. I'm really, really anticipating what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, all this is in my head. So when I relax, how do I relax? I follow current affairs. And that's pretty much it. So I'm excited for the week.
Fantastic.
Hey.
Okay, so, let's get into it and have a little bit of insights into some of the conversations that we were having today, shan't we? Or rather, shall we?
And how was your weekend?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
How do you always...
My weekend
I always
was
forget.
all right. Thanks. I went and I saw my daughter in school. And yeah.
That's
I don't know.
brief.
Everything else was kind of like a blur.
Okay.
All right.
So there we are.
Blurs are good.
Blurs are good. Still. All right. Her Excellency Ms. Caroline Vicini is the Swedish ambassador to Kenya. And Her Excellency Henriette Geiger is the EU ambassador to Kenya. These two ladies will join us at 7 o'clock for a conversation around 3 years of Russia's war against Ukraine. So we'll have that conversation at 7 o'clock, looking into the happenings around the world concerning this conflict. That happens at 7. Dr. Brian Lishenga is the chair of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya. He joins us at 8 o'clock and we'll be looking at why rural and urban private hospitals are rejecting SHA, police and teachers covers. My goodness, just when you thought it was safe to do what?
Get out of the water.
Thank you very much. The water decides...
Or is it get in the
Oh,
water?
get in. The water decides you're not getting in, neither are you getting out.
So where are we?
Yeah, on the shore.
Okay.
Where? 9 o'clock, Erastus Mwencha is the former deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission. He'll join us at 9 o'clock and we'll talk about the ramifications of Ryla's AUC loss. That's the conversation that we have at 9. That's what we're doing this morning. Already glad that you're here with us. We're going to take a quick one and then say hello to everybody in a bit. When I say that you get into Monday morning and you need a little bit of a pit stop, you're going to take that pit stop with Delamere yogurt. Whether you're having the strawberry, it is real pieces of fruit, or whether you're having the vanilla, real vanilla pods, or real chocolate in the chocolate chip. All sorts of things like pear, caramel, and apricot, orange and honey, and lemon biscuit. Take your pick, really, across board, and have a moment with Delamere. All right, we will say hello to you. Let's just do that right now. People who are getting in online. Zachary says, good morning, Spice family. It's Monday. Yes, it is. Government should ease and start listening to the ground. Cindy, Desmond Ortiz says that Chebukati was also a human being. Yes, he was. Let's forgive him. Okay. Sawa.
That is an extremely valid point.
I think so. I think there was a lot that came out over the last couple of days, but I think that's a very valid point.
It is. And more importantly, no one really knows what it takes to have that particular seat and what one has to deal with. I'll leave it at that.
Indeed.
Yes.
You really don't know.
May you still rest.
So George Gashoiri is tuned in this morning, says happy Monday and looking forward to a great show. Thank you very much. Michael Olanda is tuned in, my countrymen and women. Good morning from Mombasa, says Robert Mboko. And learn from Wazungu's Germany election. Sorab, what are you saying, man? But okay, we'll just take that as a good morning, shall we? Bernard Odongo says, good morning, Spice family. Wishing you all a good morning and a blessed Monday and a fruitful week ahead. Amen. We missed you over the areas over the weekend. Well, thank you for tuning in this morning, Bernard. Jeffrey Mogaka, we see you. Good morning. You say, have a blessed week. The president enjoyed a church service at Bamburi yesterday. That was fun. It was interesting because he attended the early service and...
very, very interesting.
Nobody was there. Anyway, Joseph Simba says, good morning, my people. Erica Orr is saying, good morning, Taifa Leo. Kome, Majaji, Roho, Mkononi. Good morning, CT Ndo and Dorice. Germany just had elections. Imagine, nobody made any noise. They did the thing, brought in a new leader, and we move. Hey. No noise over the cars. When would Kenya learn? Jimmy Gakio says, good morning, Team Spice. Happy New Week. The US President DJ Trump is threatening to return to Afghanistan and seize military gear left behind, says my prince. Imagine. Guy is on a spree. He realizes 4 years is a short time. Everything I ever wanted to do, if I say it and I thought it, let me do it now that I'm president. Hey. Zachariah says, good morning. We see you. Hola, amigos. Hola, hola.
Hola.
Morning, Team Spice. What are we doing as Kenya with entertaining Janjaweed militia here while we were quick to have Tanzania's Maria Sarungi and Uganda's Besigye kidnapped in our capital? These are good questions. Georgia Koff says, good morning, CT, Princess Ndi, good morning. And Dorice, what a weekend finalizing on a church service in Kilifi. Kenya wewe inchi. Okay, yangu sita kuacha milele.
Sita kuacha, that song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Givinji Gatobu is tuned in this morning. Margaret Wanjohi is also here. Joe Mungai is tuned in. He says, it's a shame we've become insensitive. Yes, I know. We should have actually been able to humanly say rest in peace for Chebukati. Benedito is tuned in this morning. Bwangi James is also, Juma, I beg your pardon, is here. CT Muga is getting young. King Dave Lubale says he's getting young in the middle of two gorgeous sunflowers. Wala. Carol Nyambura anatupenda. Tunakupenda pia. Ednah. Good morning, my sister. Thumbs up from Ednah to all of you. Kisa Daniel says, good morning, have a happy new week. Bob Mariga is also tuned in. Washo Gatoto is here this morning, says, have a great week ahead. I'm just going to get through everybody today. Kilazima. Numadi says, good morning from Argentina. Argentina? How about that? Good morning, Team Spice. It's becoming messy and noisy every day. I'm telling you. Deno is also tuned in, as well as Jose Mahinda says, good morning. Salimia Dorice says, Chef Dorice, Salimia.
Nime receive.
Bas. That's all we need ever. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Karibuni sana. And as we get into it, CT, to where will you take us this week?
CT, where art thou, CT? I art here.
And we are ready to journey. Is it journey thee along?
What?
That's very good.
Along with thee.
Along with thee, okay.
Yes. Okay, thou has heard. Was it thine?
Thine, not thou. Not thee.
Not very good advice.
Let's just travel, man.
Me and King James are trying.
Yeah, King James. You know, we are in West Africa, and the thing that I found fascinating in my journeys is just the wealth of history. I used to give it a cursory look. Now I'm giving it some very, very pointed, very pointed attention. Okay? We are in the Republic of Mali.
Nice.
The 8th largest country in Africa. Okay? My goodness, it is bordered by many countries. Algeria to the north, Niger to the east, Mauritania to the northwest, Burkina Faso to the south, Cote d'Ivoire south, Guinea northwest, and Senegal west. Can you imagine all those countries? Okay? It has 13 national languages.
Oh.
Yeah. The thing about Mali, though, that actually caught my attention.
Yeah.
This was once upon a time a really, really powerful kingdom.
Big time.
Yes. Traversed most of what we now refer to as West Africa. And they had some very, very, very wonderful kings. Okay? And the thing that is known about them, there's a guy called Mansa Musa. He's the one who's probably known. Yes, and when they talk about Mansa Musa, they forget about Sundiata Keita, who was the founding king. The stories will continue when I tell you of how, because of these kings, and mostly because of Mansa Musa, Timbuktu actually became a center of learning and growth for the faith, Islamic faith, and for scholarly learning.
Right.
Scholarly learning, by the estimate today, I'm talking about university learning.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you talk about civilization and you talk about what it is that Africa contributed to what we know as the known civilized world, it is a plenty. Right.
It's also landlocked, though you said
It
that.
is absolute. No, I did not. It is you who has said so, and it is correct. It is absolutely landlocked. It has 2 rivers passing through it. River Niger and River Senegal.
Right.
Okay? But it also has desert, plenty of it. Now the proverb. Yes. He who longs much for a child will marry a pregnant woman.
He who longs much for a child will marry a pregnant woman.
Yes.
Yes. What? He who longs much for a child.
Who long? Look, let me put it in.
Longs as in wants, desires.
He who desires to have a child very much so will marry a pregnant woman.
So they're in a hurry.
No, then they want a child. This thing of waiting.
Doesn't matter
They
if
want a
it's
child,
theirs
so
or
they're
not.
not gonna. Maybe I don't know. They're not gonna wait for that process. You want it now, so you're going to go and get the one that's ready made.
Shortcut.
No, clever.
Smart.
Very smart. Because that pregnant woman tells you she can bear children. So,
So
if you want more children,
indication.
you know that particular unit functions well.
But now,
You look, I'm being given.
sometimes it's never the case.
Yes, that sometimes is just a part of life. But on the face of it, it is good. Yes. But remember, it's for only those who want a child quickly, urgently.
All right.
He's not gonna try and fail.
No.
You want the ready. You're gonna take one that you're sure of. So I'm just trying to imagine that when you really, really want something, you're not going to go through the process of trying and failing and trying or failing. You're going to go for the thing that's already proven, sure, and you'll take that and go with it. You're not going to try your luck when you have the one that's already tried and tested. Yes. Like my mother always used to say, follow this path that I'm telling you because I've been through it. You can't. I'm telling you, I've been through it. So now you and if you desire to get to that place of success, just follow the path that has been trodden.
N'est-ce pas?
C'est ça.
Goody.
Goody. All right, let's look into the headlines this morning, and it'll be interesting to see what folks have to say about that proverb through today. On the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. Turkana massacre. A violent militia attack on Todonyang Lake in Turkana has claimed at least 20 lives and left many injured. The assailants ambushed fishermen, sparking fears of escalating violence with casualties still unaccounted for. Security forces are scrambling to contain tensions along the volatile Kenya-Ethiopia border region. Say cray. How knife gangs are holding Mathare residents hostage. Ish. And then we go on to a sick nation. Hospitals halt Shah services. My goodness. JKIA's vanishing billions. Can we just talk about the fact that I look out of the window Friday night and there was a fire about 2 kilometers long along the grasslands of JKIA? And speculation is rife, but since we're talking about that, 12 years of loans and no progress. The government took over 100 billion shillings in loans over 12 years for JKIA's expansion. Key projects remain incomplete or non-existent. An investigation by the Standard reveals mismanagement, wasted funds and debt burdens, raising fresh concerns over accountability in the JKIA project. Magical Kenya Open was a sight to behold. And we have a picture of the winner there with the winner's trophy. We'll look into details of stories making their way into Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, in a bit. Nation.
The front page of the Daily Nation this morning, a defining week for Komi top judges. The Judicial Service Commission is set to reconvene tomorrow with the proposed ouster of the 7 Apex Court judges top of the agenda. Also inside, elite Kenyan forces battle against Oromo militants, and at the center of it, retirees bear brunt of Ruto M-Pesa rule. Now, many senior citizens have been locked out of the Inua Jamii program following President William Ruto's directive directive that all disbursement be done through mobile money wallets. This stems from SIM registration hitches, including having national identity numbers with 7 digits or deemed too old. All right. Raila's 4 options, in as far as politics is concerned, analysts and allies and critics of opposition leader Raila Odinga are floating 4 options that the ODM leader could pursue after he lost the quest to become African Union Commission chairperson. They believe Mr. Odinga could cement his ties with President William Ruto, continue extracting concessions from President while pushing the narrative he isn't part of the ruling coalition, reignite his criticism of the administration to prepare for a 6th run, and reach out to his former opposition allies. Those are Raila's 4 options. We'll be having a conversation around the, of course, ramifications of his loss at the AU, but parents losing streak in court cases against private school orders. 2014 is the year the first attempt was made by a parent whose child had been expelled for refusing to shave his dreadlocks. Now, for over a decade, parents have been pushing for a court declaration that private schools have an obligation to enforce the constitutional right to education. But their efforts have been proving futile, as courts have continuously held that although Article 43 of the Constitution guarantees everyone the right to education, private schools do not have an obligation to provide such a right. That is on page 4 of the Daily Nation. We'll get a little bit deeper after.
Titi?
We are in the East African. Why Kagame is under pressure. Okay?
Okay.
Right? That is just a taste of things to come. Why don't I look at the Star, the Business Daily, then we can then go into the details of what? The East African. Gadhungu flags irregular 8 billion payout in oil deal. This is the Auditor General. Okay. Kenya Kwanza's strategy to cut fuel prices is not working. A new audit has concluded. Auditor General Nancy Gadhungu said the government-to-government or importation scheme is not efficient. She has flagged about 8 billion which was passed on to consumers in the arrangement during the review period. It is emerging that motorists paid 4 billion in irregular demurrage charges, which they wouldn't have incurred under the old system. Right. Another 1 billion legal fee was charged to consumers at the pump whose beneficiaries were not disclosed. The story that is the headline in the Standard is also mentioned here. It says, gunmen kill 20 fishermen in suspected revenge plot. At least 20 fishermen were killed by gunmen believed to be from Ethiopia. And the Nyang border on Saturday evening, several villagers in Lopekumuke and Lotiira were injured in the attack believed to be the retaliation by the Dasanek gang. Police said some of the injured were evacuated for treatment in Rift Valley. Okay? Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah.
Back in the middle of the paper, Trader says sales have dropped by 40%. How Mitumba has stifled Kenya's cloth production. Story on page 4 and 5. All right. More tourists to visit Kenya. Ruto. President William Ruto and Norwegian Dawn cruise ship captain interact with tourists at the port of Mombasa, where he toured the Norwegian Dawn. Over 2,200 passengers were on board. Right. In the Business Daily. Okay.
Yes.
Top right-hand corner. This one's not in teal green, it's just top right-hand corner. 10,000 steps a day challenge, a fitness game changer or a fad. You know, this thing of I need 1,000 steps so that I can
to reach my goal.
Yes, and reduce this and probably add that and the other and so forth. I'm told it works.
Tinder.
Lower food fuel import bill narrowed trade deficit. The gap in the value of Kenya's imports and exports narrowed for the second year running in 2024 on falling expenditure on foods and fuel orders from abroad. When there's no money, this is what often happens. SBM Bank loses second bid to block Fidelity Bank's 2.5 billion suit. The High Court has rejected a bid by Mauritian multinational SBM Holdings to stop a court order in which former shareholders of Fidelity Bank are seeking a compensation of 2.5 million. Our courts are busy.
Quite.
Portland Cement to start repaying 1.9 billion state-backed loan. East African Portland Cement Company is set to begin repayment of 1.9 billion loan from Japan's JICA, which was taken over by the state. Shilling weekends to 2.5 month low. The shilling weekend to a 2.5 month low of 129.59 against the dollar on Friday, according to official exchange rates. How Raila AU bid raised foreign ministry's budget to 1.1 billion. That is the story. Back in the middle of the paper, Quiver owner, SportsPesa CEO in boardroom battle. Shareholder war erupts over Kenya's newest insurance firm. Bar chain owner told to pick 195 million for his shares. Okay? This story is about the Quiver Lounge and Grill owner and SportsPesa Chief Executive Officer Ronald Karauri. They are entangled in a boardroom and shareholder war with Kenya's newest insurance company in a battle that threatens to reveal the firm's secrets. Okay? We'll look at the secrets later, won't we?
Of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
Very.
Okay, so it's bound to be an interesting time of looking into the details. Let's just take a break now and take a look at what's happening with weather and traffic. And where I also remind you that VetoFX is the go-to platform for businesses, whether it's your small businesses, medium or large corporations. You don't have to worry anymore about how you make payments, how you receive them, and how you go ahead to ensure that seamless transactions continue with your business. So 190 countries is where you can send money to, 190 countries where you can operate in with over 49 different currencies. And getting on this platform ensures that there's seamless movement of your business transactions from day to day. Not have to worry about high fees. You don't have to worry about hidden charges. You also don't have to worry about long downtime when it comes to making sure that your payments have actually gone through. www.vetofx.com. Go there today and find out how your business is seamless with your transactions.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning with highs of 28 and lows of 16 with highs of 30 and lows of 12, and a clear Nakuru at 13. It's 10 degrees and clear in Nyeri with highs of 28, while at 12 it's clear in Eldoret, going to highs of 27. Mostly cloudy at 25 in Mombasa this morning, at 26 in Malindi. It's 18 and clear in Kisumu, going to highs of 33, while at 16 it's clear in Kakamega, going to highs of 34. Mostly clear at 20 into Kampala with highs of 31, while Dar es Salaam at 27 will be mostly cloudy through Monday, going to highs of 32. It's 18 and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a partly cloudy Mogadishu at 24. It's 13 and clear in Addis Ababa with highs of 25, while Lagos is cloudy at 27, Kinshasa is cloudy at 24. 5 degrees and sunny in Beijing Monday afternoon. It's 11 and clear, going to highs of 12 in Paris, and light rain in London at 11. Sunday night is cloudy at 4 degrees in New York. Coming into Monday, highs of 8 and lows of 2.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Looks like we'll get into a busy morning this Monday. Just a little bit of traffic that started to form on the Thika Superhighway. We're looking at bumper-to-bumper action going through Wards Survey. But before that, we're not going to have too much of an issue, except for the traffic that we see coming in from that Roiro bypass. And it's coming in through towards the Thika Superhighway. That's already starting to build up. It might be just a tad annoying for folks as you get through the morning, but that's there for now. Coming off the Eastern bypass, it's already starting to build as well. And Kangunda Road coming in from Jiro, very busy. On the other side of things, coming off of Waiaki Way, you're doing all right. No hold up here. Also on Gong Road, it's looking good, coming in from Naivasha Road and Kikuyu Road on the other side. So we're starting off Monday morning. Let's see how it all pans out. Talk to us as we try to keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, looking into the headlines at 25 minutes to 7. This one is a conversation that will form our conversation at 8 o'clock. But Sick Nation crisis as private and mission hospitals halt SHA services. Not a little bit, no, halt. And the subs are, facilities are demanding 30 billion shillings that the National Health Insurance Fund had owed them. So those are arrears. Patients will be given the option to pay in cash or seek treatment at another hospital. So yes, we can treat you if you have cash, or we'll tell you where to go. The country is on the brink of a health crisis. If private and mission hospitals make good on their threat to suspend services today, over 30 billion shillings in pending bills. 30 billion shillings is a pretty chunk of change. Private and mission hospitals across the country have vowed to deny patients services except for emergency cases requiring life-saving interventions. Now, if you're not sure who these guys are, private hospitals, anything that is not public is private. And then the mission hospitals, we're talking about the hospitals that are attached to churches. So think about your big Kikuyu Eye Hospital, Presbyterian Hospital on this side of things in Kikuyu. Those are the hospitals that we are talking about, the mission hospitals. And they're saying, not today. Not today. The facilities are demanding payment of National Health Insurance Fund arrears amounting to 30 billion shillings. This is collective. The debt dates back to 2017 and is owed to public, private, mission and faith-based hospitals. There are at least 650 hospitals across the country under this umbrella. According to a notice issued by the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, the suspension of services follows the halting of the Social Health Authority and the Medical Administrator Kenya Limited schemes, which cover police officers and teachers. So it gets better or worse, I don't know, but it gets something. After being stabilized, emergency patients relying solely on their SHA medical covers will be referred to a hospital of their choice. So we can make sure that you're okay, so that when you leave here, you're not in under any kind of threat. And so you can tell us where you want to go. But under here, we're not going to continue serving you. No new admissions or outpatient services will be offered from today, Monday, for patients using SHA and the MAKL medical covers, whereas patients admitted under SHA or MAKL before today will continue to receive care under their existing terms. According to a section of RUFA's guidance notice, patients seeking SHA or MAKL services at the point of service shall be informed that services are temporarily unavailable. Brian Lishenga, who joins us at 8 o'clock, said affected patients will be informed that services are unavailable until further guidance from their providers is provided. Under the directive, patients will be given the option to pay in cash, seek treatment at another hospital that accepts SHA or that covers, and use an alternative medical insurance scheme if available. So they're basically saying, we've done this dance for the last 8 years. We're not going to do it anymore. You owe us money under NHIF, and that was not paid. And now you owe us money under a new scheme. Come on, how do you expect that we're going to be able to operate? So they're not shutting their doors. They're not shutting down, but they're just saying that if you're under SHA, we're not going to be able to offer you services under that because, you guys owe us money. Number two, if you had been under SHA before you were here, we'll keep treating you, but we're not taking any new admissions. So we're going to kindly ask you to either pay in cash or go find another facility that would take your SHA.
That will take your SHA. In fact, just looking at what's happening, we have essential medicines that, because what you have said is that NHIF settlement is non-negotiable. That is what they're saying. And paying SHA is not a favor, but payment for services rendered. NHIF liability is not negotiable. It is still asserting the lack of funds, he said, had left hospitals struggling to provide services. How do we offer SHA services when we have no money to operate? Money, pay SHA, is the problem. Remember last time we were here with, the health committee chair in the National Assembly. He said these are things that are being looked at. He said there's a number of, percentages of money that are being, will be, and he actually acknowledged that there is a problem there, that there are some settlements that ought to be done with NHIF, and he actually urged this particular stakeholders to go easy on the NHIF, not refuting that there are issues and concerns, but he says it's being worked on. Now, we're looking at, he said that in 2019, NHIF archived claims worth 6.9 billion, some of which have never been cleared. My question is, how does this information reach the person in the grassroots? in a way
What
that doesn't
information?
leave them. This information we're saying.
It will reach you when you go to hospital and they can't treat you.
And now that's my problem, because once you get there, and I think we talked about this communication thing. Now, I come to the hospital this morning from Migori. Yeah? So Migori, I'm Okoh chini. And I'm told, sorry, because most of them, they're asking something, the religious-based organizations, the referrals, you understand?
You go to Ombat Hospital.
Ombat Hospital, St. Joseph.
Yes.
Ombat Hospital, and you're told, sorry. As I speak this morning, sorry.
Sometimes, terrible as this is, in the absence of the crisis, all this information and this discussion would not take place. So it is now out in the open, it is jumping, it is hopping, it is sprinting across the landscape. So you have to see it, you have to talk about it, you have to address it. Okay? Because if you look at what the Association of Private Hospitals is saying, they're actually being logical and reasonable.
Quite.
It's like a timeline was given by which certain things ought to have been done. And it appears that isn't quite the case. So they're saying, look, folks, up to until this time, anybody who was seeking treatment and was in the system, nothing will be interfered with. But moving forward, we are unable to now offer services on those terms because what we required, what we asked to be sorted out, hasn't actually been sorted out to the satisfactory understanding we had arrived at. Okay? In essence, it's just rectified to the standard we had agreed on, and then the services continue.
Agreed.
See, they've been offering, it's not as though they halted the services. This is telling you we are going to stop, or we have stopped. But this now opens the door wide. This is me repeating myself for now some honest discussions about this particular platform. What really is the problem?
Exactly.
Why can't you pay this 30 billion over the last 8 years? Well, not 8 months, not 8 weeks, not 8 days, 8 years. The folks who owe this money, coming out of Treasury, coming out of the Ministry of Health, were very aware. NHIF, even when NHIF was doing its dance, they were very aware that they owed this money. So at the point where people say, you know what, guys, we've been having this conversation for the longest time. How about we just say we can't do this anymore? Because if you already have a bill of 8 billion, and you still want us to offer services on what?
Essentially to pile on the
on
debt.
top, pile on the debt. How?
On top
how
of
do you expect,
another.
how do you expect that to happen? So they're saying, you know what? How about we stop all of this right now? You get all your ducks in a row, and then let's quack along into the pond. But let's do it after you've sorted out your issue, or at the very least, speak to us.
Pretty much when you're doing the transition
Speak to us at the very least.
You knew this is 8 years. Shah just took off, I think, if I could say the other day. This is something that they were aware of, but they transitioned anyway, expecting what exactly? That we will continue with that pattern?
You couldn't have put it any better, and this is why we raised the question, what really is the problem?
Exactly.
Because there is a problem, evidently. So this problem, what is it? We have to address it. We can't talk around it. We can't give the impression that it is not what it is. So what exactly is the problem? Because when you talk of solutions, it is virtually impossible to offer solutions when you haven't determined what the actual problem is.
True.
Yes.
True.
Because if you're saying there's a solution to what exactly, and it's a problem, which one exactly? So,
Ask
the question.
I'm just here wondering, are we still having some agreements that other parties claim expired?
Or like
and other parties demanding
so like
acted upon?
with the faith-based and private hospitals,
yes,
you don't have a CBA with them.
All right.
All you have is that these guys are offering services. People can come with their card to these private or faith-based hospitals, and services will be offered to them, and then they bill you as the government. But now, as they have been billing you as government, you have not been paying. So there's no CBA. This is simple. I offer services, you pay me. Very simple.
Clear.
There is an understanding. It's contractual.
Right.
There's a contract,
And the contract that exists was between these hospitals and NHIF. So the debts we are speaking of are NHIF debts.
That's right.
Debts. Okay?
And the argument is that you moved from NHIF to SHA. Now, in that transition, nobody thought to discuss about the money that you owed us under NHIF, but you want us to carry on as though nothing happened.
That's right.
That money was actually discussed. And there were whispers and murmurs and
That they would
mention
pay.
that they would pay. But amidst that discussion, we haven't quite come to terms with what is which and what in this whole saga. We're still trying to clean the books and understand where we stand, what was actually owed and what is actually not owed. Because what are real claims and what are not real claims. Okay, time has lapsed. Can we get a response to this and say, okay, so where are we with this?
Right.
Because one of the things that system, NHF, was accused of was that there were very many fictitious claims.
Of course. Of course.
Now, if we know they were fictitious, then we would know who was paid money for fictitious claims. Claim the money back.
Simple.
There we are.
And the others, don't bother paying. Because if they were actually fictitious, you can demonstrate it. But the ones which are not, and you see, it's an ongoing process. So, again, telling us that you'll wait until you finish this process before you pay. No. As you confirm, pay.
That's right.
It makes it even easier for you. As you confirm, pay. When there's movement, these people who have now raised the red flag will see that there's movement and there are things which are being done.
So then they won't shut down the service.
Yes, and they will know our turn will come. We can see this thing is moving.
Progress.
Yes, so you can ask, where are we in the queue? But when nothing is happening, or very little of it is happening. By the way, money was paid. Eh? It's not as though nothing was paid. Some money was paid. A portion was paid. And thereafter, nothing was paid. See, that's a problem.
Okay.
If it appears there was a plan to pay, and that plan hasn't borne fruit.
It appears there's a plan to pay, but that
Yes, there was a plan
hasn't
to
borne
pay. And some initial payment was actually made. And it remained initial. Okay.
All right, we'll be having that conversation even better with the, I believe he'll be here. I think it's at 8.
Yes, he will.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting.
Okay. Give us another story, Anki.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm actually going to pick, let's see, the massacre. I think there's a prehistoric something that was very, very interesting about it. I think it's important to just pick it out. The cross-border attack, a violent militia attack at Todonyang, Lake Turkana, has claimed at least 20 lives and left many injured. The assailants ambushed fishermen, sparking fears of escalating violence, with casualties still unaccounted for. Security forces are scrambling to contain tensions along the volatile Kenya-Ethiopia border region. That is, of course, on page 5 of the Bold newspaper. I'm here again. And at least 20 people, I have mentioned that, and several others injured in what is believed to be a militia assault in a shocking cross-border attack at the volatile region on the Kenya-Ethiopia border. Heavily armed assailants reportedly ambushed fishermen. A local police reserve said that counted at least 20 bodies, while many people remain unaccounted for. Reports suggest the death toll could be higher. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen said they are working with the Kenya Defence Forces to resolve the border issue, adding that the challenges facing the communities will be addressed. All right. Now, Turkana Governor Jeremiah Lomorukai condemned the incident and called on the Kenyan and Ethiopian governments to work together and investigate the circumstances that led to the killings. Even as we're speaking, it is now said that bodies of the victims were dumped in Lake Turkana by assailants. That 12 survivors so far, including 4 youth, are being interrogated by security teams over the incident. Let me hear the voice of Turkana North Member of Parliament saying what we are witnessing now is a massacre of our own people by the militia. We appeal to the security organs to move swiftly to forestall further attacks. I would read the whole thing, but naturally what we're having right here is a very serious case at the border of Kenya and Ethiopia. At least 20 killed, but they're saying the numbers could be high. You've had the voice of the legislators, people in authority saying investigations will be done and this matter will be addressed. The question is, these are not the first time we're having this kind of border clashes in this area. If you look closely, there has been prehistoric, determinations and just skeletons being found there, which means this thing didn't start here. About 10,000 thereabout bodies in that time were discovered. Look at it resurfacing yet again. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this, but there are questions around the banditry, the north. It's always had something. But is it that because it will be addressed, it will be addressed, it will be addressed?
You know what is interesting is, just listen to the conversation.
Yes.
Militia attack fishermen. Okay?
Fishermen.
In Kenya. Story, retaliation for 3 fishermen along the Omo River in Ethiopia were attacked by Turkana bandits. Okay.
Right.
So, 1, there are bandits who exist in Turkana.
Yeah.
Correct.
This time, they bit more than they could chew. Okay? The bandits on the other side came to retaliate. Then they understand that the tooth for a tooth is not really the equation that they like. They like a neck for a tooth. Okay? And they like it in multiple figures. Okay? So you kill 3, as we kill 20. Do the maths. 6 and a bit times more. Okay? What I find interesting is that these militias exist, and they didn't chop these people up, they shot them, which means they are armed.
Yes.
Okay, so what does that tell you about that border with Ethiopia? The militia didn't suddenly exist because of the skirmish and the killing which has led to retaliation. They've been existent before.
Right.
So what do militias do on a daily basis?
When they're not involved in conflicts.
Yes. Do they have a talk show like this one where they come and talk? Well, morning people. This is XYZ militia talking to you this morning. Or the bandits on our side. How do they go about their business?
Okay.
Or morning good people. These are your local bandits.
We're not too engaged at the moment, but we might be later.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here
are the updates.
Here are the updates for what exactly? Because if militias exist, these are not mainstream security apparatus.
Absolutely not.
The question I'm asking is, what is it that we have done to ensure that this conversation ought to have been the police in Kenya at post this and this were attacked by. See, now, police were bandits. Bandits.
Fishermen.
So, yes. What does that tell you about the security on our borders? And the response now is a Johnny-come-lately response.
Yeah.
Well, after the event, 20 people are many.
To be massacred like that? Yes.
20 people are many.
And the numbers could be high, they say. Maybe higher than 20.
Yes, but it also tells you that perhaps these skirmishes have been going on for some time,
right,
that nobody has reported them.
And that is another thing. A number of things could be happening, just not reported. And then they come to the limelight and there's reactionary response.
Mr. Murkomen has inherited a docket, and we could actually say his plate is overflowing.
It's tough on this one.
This is not good news.
No, it isn't.
No, it's not.
No.
It is not.
One life is way too many.
Okay. Defining week for Kome and top judges. Let's look at that story really quickly because it is a big one, starting off the week with it. So we know that the petition was filed. We know that there were court orders to block, a further petition by the JSC of the Apex Court. But let's look, there's so much going on. Parents also losing streak in court cases against private schools, but let's look at that later if we get an opportunity to. The Judicial Service Commission is set to reconvene tomorrow with the proposed removal of the 7 Supreme Court judges, including Chief Justice Martha Koome, top of the agenda. The meeting will be led by Commission's Vice Chairperson Isaac Ruto and attended by 9 members. However, the CJ, who is the JSC chair, and Justice Mohammed Ibrahim, the representative of the Supreme Court at the JSC, will not attend because they are among the defendants in the ouster petitions. So that makes sense, obviously. Now, though Mr. Ruto did not immediately respond to calls and messages seeking details of the meeting, a highly placed source, according to The Nation, aware of the goings-on, disclosed that the commissioners will discuss their next move after the judges obtained orders stopping the JSC committee from continuing with the hearings of complaints filed against them. So they're going to have this conversation anyway. Ms. Koome last Friday led the judges in suing the JSC and rejecting the disciplinary proceedings, pointing to a looming constitutional crisis and power vacuum in the event they are suspended from office pending investigations. My goodness. She expressed fear that without a stop order from the court, the files were likely to be forwarded to President William Ruto for recommendation for the constitution of a disciplinary tribunal to hear the complaints and suspend the Supreme Court. So can you see the constitutional crisis? In the event that the members of the Apex Court are suspended, because there was a need to investigate the details of a petition, that leaves you in a spot whereby you ask yourself the question, so what happens when we do not have this court sitting, its members all on suspension because of 1, 2, 3? And that is why they went ahead to try and stop the petition, because they were trying to, according to what she's saying, avert a situation whereby the Supreme Court is not in sitting. breathe a moment, because they did go ahead to sue the GSC, because why should you question me? Essentially, is the question that's being asked here. Now, pointing to a constitutional crisis that may occur with the suspension of the Apex Court judges, CJ Kome says if the Supreme Court alone, that has jurisdiction to determine the validity of presidential elections, sits on appeals concerning removal of judges from office and provide adversary opinions, no other person or authority is authorized to carry out the constitutional functions which are specifically designated to the Supreme Court. So essentially it's for country, she says. If you suspend us, then who's going to do this work for which the Supreme Court alone has a mandate? How are we going to go about that? So, we're doing this for country, not because you want to remove us. Consequently, the actions of the JSC in proceeding with the processing of the petitions will result in a de facto suspension of these constitutional imperatives and deprive the people of Kenya of their fundamental rights. Where petitioners filed complaints against all 7 judges. The 7 is a number of Supreme Court judges, including Justice CJ Kome, who have been accused of misconduct, misbehavior, and incompetence by a former cabinet minister and 2 lawyers. It'll be interesting to see what the committee will say moving on from this morning. It's going to be a very interesting Monday. Hope you have your seatbelts on, because it's going to be a wild ride.
You'd ask yourself, okay, we have a constitutional crisis on one end, and we have judges that need to, be cleared of any suspicions of, whatever it is.
We don't have a crisis yet, according to what she's saying.
But look at this.
If they actually go ahead and do this, then you might have one.
What happens to our suspicions? What happens to the clarity that we're seeking? What happens to what ought to be done to make sure that these judges are clean?
No. To make sure that they're clean, essentially, is if, and that's why the investigations need to go on. If the investigations are carried out and you find that this is happening, then the possibility of them being removed, if it reaches the president's desk, is very real. What we find the Chief Justice at this point trying to do is to stop a situation whereby these investigations actually take place and it does reach the president.
And that's my concern. She should let it go. Let it follow due process.
The interesting thing about these things is we're learning. We're learning about judicial processes. We're learning about the functions, the mandate of the Judicial Service Commission, the powers they have, the limitations of their power, the role of the president of Kenya, and all these things we're learning. And remember, when you hear the petition against the Supreme Court judges, it isn't a singular case.
Right.
Not really.
No.
Remember, there was an issue about the Wajir gubernatorial race, and there were 4 Supreme Court judges who were involved in it. A petition rose there, and the claim was that these people were in violation of the Constitution and gross misconduct and a breach of the Judicial Code of Conduct. Okay, so you ask, what is it exactly? Now, these are the things that keep coming up. So this Judicial Code of Conduct, what on earth are they talking about? So by the time individual Supreme Court judges are going to court to actually present their case and to try and halt this process, it tells you they've taken it seriously.
Quite.
Remember, you're talking about Ahmed Nasir and former LSK President Nelson Harvey coming in. You're talking about Raphael Tuju. You're talking about a gentleman called Christopher Rosana coming in. So essentially, in my mind, the Supreme Court judges were caught flat-footed. I do not think they had anticipated this thing would get to this stage. But now it has. And we can see this. It's actually a scramble. And we can see what it is that they're doing. But remember, whatever they're accused of, they're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
It's not really complicated there. But this push, if I look at their response, it means it is a lot more serious than we think.
All right. Well, those are some of the conversations that we're having, and we'll see what happens as we go through them. After 7 o'clock, we'll look at 3 years into the war in Ukraine. We'll talk then. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah. Ubaga Kenyan officer Samuel Kitwai of the Multinational Security Support Mission was killed yesterday during an operation in Sagur CVN in the lower region of Haiti, Multinational Security Support Mission Force Commander Godfrey Otunge says Officer Kitwai was seriously wounded and was airlifted to a level 2 hospital in Aspen, where he unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. The operation, carried out jointly by the Haitian National Police and the MSS with the support of the local population, aimed to weaken the Grand Griffe gang controlling the area. Several gang members were reportedly neutralized in the exchange of gunfire with security forces. Turkana North MP Naibien Ekwom has revealed that allegedly over 30 fishermen have lost their lives with bodies inside Lake Turkana at Todonyong along the border of Kenya and Ethiopia. He says 15 boats, fishing nets, 1 motorbike and 2 NPR firearms have also been recovered. Ekwom added that they'd agree with the security team and their Dasanach to account for the deceased with the help of the Kenya Red Cross team. Turkana security team led by County Commissioner Julius Kavita has not yet disclosed the number of deaths that were reported in the incident that took place over the weekend. Now, patients intending to use SHA as they visit more than 600 rural and urban private hospitals won't receive services following a suspension that has started today. RUFA Chairman Dr. Brian Lishenga says that this has been necessitated by the 30 billion shillings debt in NHIF arrears which the government owes them. He added that member facilities will, however, continue providing emergency care to stabilize patients, and once stabilized, patients who opt to exclusively use their SHA or MAKL medical covers shall be referred to a hospital of their choice.
Jambo la kwanza ambalo tungependa kusema ni kwamba huduma zote za dharura ama emergency medical services zitaendelea kutolewa kama hapo awali. Kwa hivyo vituo vyote vya afya vinatakiwa kuendelea kutoa huduma za dharura kwa wagonjwa bila ya ubaguzi. Jambo la pili ni kwamba hakuna mgonjwa yoyote ambaye anafaa kunyimwa huduma za dharura kwa sababu ya mabadiliko haya.
And patients who were admitted before today with SHA will, however, be allowed to be served.
La pili ni wagonjwa waliolazwa kabla ya tarehe 24 ama Jumatatu. Ikiwa uko katika hospitali na ulilazwa, wagonjwa ambao walilazwa chini ya mpango wa SHA ama MAKL kabla ya tarehe ya kusitisha huduma wataendelea kupata matibabu bila usumbufu wowote. Kwa hivyo kama umelazwa hospitalini na ulikuwa admitted ama umepangiwa kufanyiwa upasuaji ama procedure kabla ya tarehe 24 mwezi huu wa pili, kabla ya Jumatatu, hakuna mabadiliko yoyote ambayo yatatendeka. Utaendelea kufanyiwa hiyo huduma na matibabu kulingana na ile ule mkataba ambao tuko nao na SHA na MAKL.
More than 6 fish market traders in Busia are receiving treatment at the Busia County Referral Hospital after being attacked by a group of youth calling themselves M23, armed with machetes and clubs. The traders, led by the market chairman Boniface Osogo, said the youth attacked them while they were at their meeting.
Tulikuwa kwa ofisi tukitekeleza kazi yetu ya soko. Muda si muda, mimi chenye niliona ni kama ni miujiza. Niliona vijana wamebeba marungu na wamebeba panga na kuataki sisi, yani bila hata kuongea. Na wakisema ya kwamba hata tunataka kuwakatakata leo tuwaue, hata mkienda police station, county commander ako na sisi. Vile pia tumefika police station, hata OB imefichwa. Mimi nimekatwa kichwa mara 3, nikakatwa mkono, nikapigwa na rungu kwa mgongo.
Tumenusurika vifo watu wengi na makesi ziko hapa zaidi ya 50.
However, Busia County Police Commander Ahmed Abdullah said they've launched an investigation to arrest the suspects.
Kulikuwa na watu wamepata majeruhi kama watu 6 hivi. Hiyo soko samaki kulikuwa na shida kidogo, kuna watu hawataki hiyo chairman ambao wamechaguliwa na county government kuendelea na hiyo uongozi hiyo tena. Lakini jana kulingana na wale waliandika statement kwa OCS walikuwa nasema kwamba hiyo vita imekuwa triggered na allocation of stalls. Kuna mtu alikuwa amepewa mahali kufanya kazi, amenatolewa na kupewa mwingine. Hiyo ndio ilileta shida. Lakini kwa sasa hiyo furugu imetulia. Ndio watu walipata majeruhi kidogo hapa na pale.
That's the news wire. I'm La Umaga.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room.
Good morning. It is 6 minutes after 7 o'clock, getting into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday. And do I keep getting ahead of myself? I think so. Ednah will forgive me at some point. Getting into it this morning, and here we are getting into a conversation, and we're looking at global matters today that, however you want to look at it, affect the geopolitics of any country that you are in, so long as you are on the global scale. I introduce our guests to you in just a moment, but CT, we're still looking to take out a mortgage, and if we do, you seem to be still waving the magic wand in terms of what we need to do.
Well, the wand was actually given to me by Diamond Trust Bank, and the information they gave me was actually quite specific. They said, look, we have this facility, and we're offering to Kenyans who are either in the diaspora, self-employed or employed. And they told me to say this, that they are offering something quite unique, single-digit interest rates on their loans or on their mortgages. If you take a mortgage for 10 years, they're saying we'll charge you 9%. If you take it for 25 years, we'll charge you 9.75%. But they're also saying, look, if you happen to be employed, we are able to give you up to 105% of what you require. If you're in the diaspora, up to 80% of what you require. Then they take it further and they say, look, we don't have any hidden charges. Note the change in my tone. They're also saying we will not penalize you if you pay ahead of the scheduled arrangement. And they're also saying we are in partnership with the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. And because of this, we are able to offer you these single-digit interest rates on the loan. But if you want to confirm what I am saying, do the following. Either visit any Diamond Trust Bank branch or send an email to mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
There it is.
Yes.
And there's what you need to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Simple, really.
We'll ask you to wave that wand with a flourish later on as well.
Yes, we'll give it a little oomph later on, yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, we're getting into, like I said, that geopolitical conversation that we talked about earlier, and their excellencies are with us in the studio this morning. Her Excellency Caroline Vicini is Sweden's ambassador to Kenya. Karibu sana to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. And Her Excellency Henrietta Geiger is the EU ambassador to Kenya and also permanent representative to UNEP and UN Habitat. Karibu sana and welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
Glad to have you.
It's great to be back.
Asante. Well, as we do our tradition every morning, CT gives us a proverb from a different African country that he has gone to. So we're going to put both of you, Your Excellencies, to work this morning already before we get into our conversation. CT is going to share a proverb with us. Then you can tell us what you think of it and how you'd interpret that. Is that all right?
Perfect.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah, this African country is the 8th largest country in Africa. It was once a massive, massive empire. But of note, before it got independence in 1958, it had a formation that was unique. We know of the Sudan, that we refer to as the Republic of Sudan, but this particular country was actually part of what was called the Republic of Sudan. That is the Republic of Mali. They were called the Republic of Sudan because they, together with the Republic of Senegal, were one country, and they were called the Republic of Sudan. But that was in the previous century, around the same time when I was being born. Right, the proverb. He who longs too much for a child will marry a pregnant woman.
So should we talk about that?
Yes, please. We can start with you, Balozi Gaiga. Tell us.
Yeah, I think this is a challenge for all of us because a great virtue is patience, and that is of short supply these days. We have learned not to wait patiently anymore, but we want now and today what we aspire to. And your proverb is telling us that if we cannot wait, we spoil the soup, because maybe we'll get ourselves into trouble.
Right. Balozi Vicini.
Yes, I'm thinking a little bit. I do agree with what Henriette just told us. That's probably true. It's time is spinning very fast, and people want everything now or maybe even yesterday. But I'm thinking it's a bit interesting to have this as an African proverb, because here usually it's quite important who is your offspring, who are your own children. I mean, a lot of people are quite attached to that, or a lot of men particularly attached to that idea. And women, we usually know, we are the one who knows.
Yes, you do.
So I'm a bit puzzled with this proverb as it is, because it doesn't seem to me to really rhyme with at least the reality we see here.
Okay. This is the beauty of asking people to give their opinions and understand the proverb. Excellent interpretations.
Indeed. Indeed.
What is your interpretation?
This is a twist. Very nice.
Not allowed. Not allowed.
No, you are allowed.
You are allowed.
You're allowed to ask. My understanding of this proverb is this. The urgency with which someone desires something is what determines how they go about getting it. Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we're even going to discuss, one could argue that they all revolve around a certain urgency that certain people, certain nations have. And so when you look at the way they're going about their business, it informs you. And it tells you, so this is why they're doing what they're doing.
Indeed.
Yes. That would be my interpretation.
Thank you. Very good.
Yes.
So as we get into this conversation this hour, we're looking at 3 years into the Russia-Ukraine conflict, war. I mean, we can say conflict and dull it down in terms of the severity of some of the things that we see, but it has been at very many levels called a war. Even as we get into that, the UN most recently with its draft resolution calling for a swift end to this crisis, many heads, when we look at the geopolitical conversation, have been saying 3 years down the line, it's about time that we saw something here. We've also seen that President Zelensky saying he's ready to give up his position as president of Ukraine if being allowed to become a member of NATO. So there are very many conversations that are being had at the meantime. But if we look at what has been said, whether we're looking at the support that has been thrown behind Ukraine by the European Union or by individual countries such as Sweden, let's take an overview of what we are looking at the moment in terms of 3 years down the line and where things stand. And maybe we can start with you, Balozi Gaiga.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us the scene setter. When I think of Ukraine and the invasion of Russia, I think of the human lives lost. This, sometimes we're forgetting that amongst all the political considerations. And the human lives lost on the two sides, actually. The other day, I just learned that more than 700,000 Russian soldiers died in that conflict. 700,000. Many of them, of course, I think all of them forcefully thrown to the front, they didn't volunteer. They were just herded and thrown into the war. So it's not only that the Ukrainians were flagrantly hurt with their human rights, also the Russians themselves hurt their own population by that. And nobody would have thought that 3 years on, the carnage has not stopped yet. And we all want peace, but we want a sustainable and a fair peace. And many people don't know that there was already a first invasion in 2014.
Yes.
And there was a sort of patch up that didn't hold. It was not a sustainable peace. And then there came 3 years ago the full-fledged invasion. And the European Union wants peace more than anybody else, because we have been supporting financially, politically, in humanitarian terms, militarily. But it's taking a big toll, not only on the Ukrainians, who basically fight for freedom, and you should not forget the history of Europe. So many of the member states of the European Union, they were dominated and enslaved by Russia. They lived behind the Iron Curtain. They had no freedom at all. And these are the new member states of the European Union who are most adamant, because they know what it means to live without freedom.
Right.
So that's why they are also telling us every day, this is a danger. This cannot continue, because the idea is, if Putin is not stopped, he will continue and he will attack other countries as well.
Okay. And for you, Balozi Vicini, where we are today in terms of what's happening, looking at it from a Swedish nationalist point of view, as a member of the EU, but still as a nation for whom received almost direct in terms of threats from Russia, what are we looking at here 3 years down the line?
Yes, I'm really grateful that I'm allowed to be here today and representing the countries that are really immediate neighbors to Russia and very closely affected by this war. We should not forget that 3 years ago, Ukraine was just a normal country going about people were going about their own affairs, living their life. And all of a sudden, they were thrown into a war. They were under attack. They were under siege. And this came, although there had been some warning signs, I think nobody really thought it would happen. You know, they said, this is too outrageous. This will not happen. That you launch a full-scale attack on a country that is living peacefully and trying to live peacefully with its neighbor. And that tells us who are in the northern part of Europe that this could happen to us as well. So for us, this has been 3 tumultuous years where a lot has changed. You know, Sweden and Finland were both non-aligned countries. We were standing outside NATO, and it was a part, I would say, of our identity. Because we have had peace for over 200 years. So we felt this was a part of our national identity. It completely changed everything. And today there was just a poll. There's a poll every year about which institutions do you trust most.
Right.
This year, NATO and the UN were at the top for the Swedish population. You know, that was unthinkable 5 or 6 years ago. And now we are at that situation. That means also that we feel that Ukraine is waging a war on our behalf. If we allow them to lose by not supporting them, then we are coming next. And I think those that we are most worried about is our Baltic neighbors on the other side of the Baltic Sea. It's not very far away. That used to be colonized by Russia. The Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. these are small countries, and we know that Russia wants to take them back again. So for us, this has had a profound effect. Not only that we have the whole Swedish population has raised up to help Ukraine in so many different ways. There are very many voluntary initiatives going on. The government has said this is our number one priority, and we have, as late as yesterday, launched for today a new big donation of air defense to
Ukraine.
To Ukraine.
Okay.
So we are giving military support, which was something we didn't do before, but we have given a lot of military support, donated. We buy new military equipment and we give it to, as the rest of the EU is doing, for the Ukrainians to allow them to defend themselves.
I'm interested. When you say that this is something that was not anticipated and people essentially thought it wouldn't happen, what is it that informed this view? Why did they think? I mean, is it that you had had peace for so long, you assumed that it would never be disturbed, or did you imagine that someone in the person of Putin would never consider doing what he did? What was the thinking?
I think our thinking was that after the Second World War, we created an order, a security order in Europe that was really very advanced, with a lot of agreements and on how to keep things, checks and balances. We saw that Russia was starting to withdraw from all those agreements several years before this happened. But I think, for us, a new war in Europe was really unthinkable.
Why?
Can I come in here?
Please.
The European Union and also the UN, they were founded on the premise of never again, never war again. So the Second World War caused the death of more than 60 million people. 60 million people. So the people who survived said, never again a war. And so the principle of peace was so deeply ingrained in the history of the European Union and its mission that and we have lived for the longest period ever in Europe in peace. So we thought we had advanced so much with building the UN, the European Union, peaceful cooperation, that and in the past there were also trade ties, and there were efforts to collaborate with Russia, so to make deals on energy and so on. So the first conflict in 2014 with Ukraine was a wake-up call, but we didn't think that there would be a full-fledged invasion war, and countries behind the Iron Curtain, they were invaded by Russia before, so there's the fear. And Finland has a border of more than 1,000 kilometers with Russia, so they feel very vulnerable right now. But the children in Europe nowadays, they haven't experienced war ever. They have lived and grown up in a peaceful environment. So this was something that was unthinkable for us, that we could ever be in a true war situation again.
And if I may add, I think Kenya is a country like that as well. Kenya is a country that has always benefited from peace. You are not at war with your neighbors in your modern times, but or since the republic was formed, you are an island of peace, and you believe that this is how it will remain. You think this is this is the best for everyone, because a war is never something that is profitable. I mean, it's profitable for a very few people, but most people suffer from it, no?
Indeed.
Speaking of the warnings, I mean, it's very interesting because there are people who argue that for a long time, President Putin had put across his concerns, and of course the involvement of the United States in the concerns between Russia and Ukraine. And someone would argue that this was, signs enough for the EU to know that something was coming. And as far as the territorial conversations were concerned, perhaps someone would not be really convinced that when you say you didn't see this coming, how about the signs and the conversations that Putin, put out in his address saying somebody's causing interference just near his border?
Yeah, nobody wants to have a war. So you try to, with dialogue, and you try to mitigate conflicts or conflicts in the making, and then you see a slippery slope. So things get worse over time, and we use always our diplomatic tools to try to do things, but nobody thought it will come to that point. There are many sweltering conflicts in the world that are being kept with the lid on, and then all of a sudden it just explodes. So and also, one historical dimension I think I wanted to bring in is from World War II, Hitler. When he invaded Poland, many historians say now, if there had been a very determined reaction in the beginning on the invasion of Poland, maybe World War II could have been avoided. And that's why many people say, do not do the same mistake twice. Be determined now before it becomes a firebrand that engulfs the whole continent or the whole world.
So are we making can you draw a parallel between what happened with the invasion of Poland and saying that at that time there would have been the possibility of averting such huge in terms of conflict, and what is happening today, that if, from your point of view, if Russia would have been able to be held back from this invasion of Ukraine, that we could possibly hold back on further conflict?
Who knows? I mean, nobody knows what would have happened. Would there have been a stronger reaction with the invasion of Poland? But it is the view in Europe right now that if Putin gets his way now, he will not stop. This is what our interpretation is.
Your neck of the woods has a history of internal wars dating something like 5,000 years. Internal conflicts, the 30 years war. But the significant thing has always been leaders who have expansionist ideas. And usually they can be seen a mile off. You don't really need to be a historian or someone who analyzes world events to understand the way they speak, the way they go about their business. You talk about the lessons learned after World War II. I look at the significant one where extreme right-wing parties in your collective countries will never really ever get a chance to actually have power. I'm saying this definitively because I am looking at the election that you had in Germany. Yes. The right wing made a valiant effort, but it looks like they understand right-wing parties. Hitler's party was completely right-wing, absolutely. They call it nationalist, but it was right-wing. They have understood, and because of that, there's always a coalition government within Europe. Yes, Russia is in Europe. They didn't get that memo, did they?
No, and I think they are looking also at history. They look back. This is we shouldn't forget that this is the Putin is seeing himself in the line of heritage from the Russian emperor, and he's now talking about zones of influence and things like that, and those are the things we cannot accept. There is no room for that in the international world order, with zones of influence where you basically from a foreign capital dictate what
is happening in another sovereign in another sovereign state, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we cannot accept that concept coming back because we know how big the Soviet Union was. And we know that there is a number of countries that have sort of liberated themselves. Some were a part of the Soviet Union and are now independent countries. Tajikistan, Ukraine is case in point, Armenia, Azerbaijan, etc. I mean, it was a huge country, the Soviet Union, but also it had under its influence Eastern Europe.
Yes.
And people didn't live well there. And they were dictated by what came out of Moscow, and I don't think there is any desire to go back to that. Look, Poland, case in point. I'm as old as you, so I remember. When I was a student, we had. I was a member of a student organizations. We had a friend committee in Poland to get these students, a few students, to come over to Sweden. I mean, it took us half a year. And I remember how amazed, I still remember the girl who slept in my dorm room, how amazed she was when we walked around the town and she looked at the different stores and she saw that we could go into a supermarket and buy whatever we wanted. The shelves were full. I remember I brought her to a clothing store and she said, oh, if I had this choice, I don't think I could buy anything because there's just too much choice here. These people could not travel outside their own country.
Yes, they couldn't.
And we have to remember that. And I think that's quite unknown to maybe the larger part of the population in Kenya, because most people were not even born at that time. So this story is we don't talk about it very much
But you see, Your Excellency,
it's very recent.
There's something that Russia has done effectively, very effectively and very well for the long time. It's called propaganda. Not to the rest of the world, even to their own people. Because if you were to ask somebody who is a middle class or well-to-do in Russia and what their view is, or the common citizen, what do they think this war against Ukraine is all about?
I would like to say that when I was in Russia last, that was already quite some years ago, I was amazed at the support Putin has from its population. He was very popular, a hero, and why? In Russia, there was also that idea of making Russia great again. So Russia as an empire, many people thought Gorbachev, who's a former leader of Russia, he sold out and he let all these countries go into self-rule and sovereignty and making Russia small and insignificant. And they thought this was a historic mistake that needs to be corrected. So that on that wave, Putin was riding for the longest. But now the economic cost of this war is really hitting the Russians badly, the population. The Russian economy cannot really afford such a war for a long time.
Okay. Well, let's take a break at this point. I want to come back and look at that because we do know that there are certain sanctions. I think the number is 25 that have been placed on Russia and what that actually means for its population and whether that is a tool to essentially avert conflict. We'll be back after this break to continue with that. Her Excellency Caroline Vicini, the Swedish ambassador to Kenya, as well as Her Excellency Henriette Geiger, the EU ambassador and permanent representative to UN Habitat and UNEP, our guest this hour, and we are looking at 3 years into the war on Ukraine, and we're looking at the intrigues of all of that this morning. 1 million people enter into the Kenyan population every year, rather into the job market from the Kenyan population every year. Some of them don't have the skills that they need to get into a job or to start a business. Well, the KCB Foundation, through the 2G Ajiri program, is saying, let's make that connect for you. We'll send you into 6 months of further skills gathering and make sure that you will then be able to be ready to get into the job market. We'll also kit you and tool you and give you a little bit in terms of credit so that you can start your business and connect you to the much needed jobs that you need. Youth between the ages of 18 and 35 are benefiting from this program. You can too. Just log on to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. It's 24 to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start
There's
your day.
something magical about finding the place you call home. The place where every laugh echoes, every meal feels like a celebration, and every day brings new memories. A home where milestones matter, such as birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners, and all the moments in between that make life special. At DTB, we understand that a home is not just an address. It's the place where you build your life. With an interest rate as low as 9% and up to 105% financing, own your dream home with DTB. You can call us on 0719 031 888 or email us on mortgages@dtbafrica.com or visit our website at www.dtbafrica.com. DTB. Bank with us. Bank on us.
The weather with Spice FM.
Partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 16. It's 13 and clear in Nakuru and 10 and clear in Nyeri. 12 degrees and mostly clear into Eldoret, while Mombasa at 25 is cloudy. Malindi at 26 is cloudy. 18 and clear in Kisumu and looking into a clear Kakamega currently at 16. It's clear at 20 looking into Kampala, and at 27 Dar es Salaam is cloudy. Into Johannesburg is cloudy at 18 and Mogadishu at 24 is cloudy with clear conditions at 13 in Addis Ababa. At 27 Lagos is mostly cloudy with cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. All right, we're trotting into traffic hour this morning, and wherever you look for it, you'll find it this morning. Quite some traffic coming in on Magadi Road, heading out towards Langata Road, and there's traffic coming in from Karen, and so bumper to bumper through towards the barracks, and then out towards Uhuru Gardens at the interchange, and then through towards Nyara Stadium. There's traffic there all along. It's dotted through and through, and on the Thika Superhighway, heavy traffic coming in from that Roiro interchange all the way through past Kasarani out towards Garden City. Kiambu Road also busy. Coming in from United Nations Avenue through towards Limuru Road, we've got bumper to bumper action here as well as on Waiaki Way. There's traffic heading out towards Westlands. So yes, from all indications, we're in traffic hour, and it looks like it's a very busy Monday morning. Keeping an eye on all of this, trying to keep things moving. How about we talk Spice FM? KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 21 minutes to 8 o'clock. We're having a conversation about 3 years into the Russia-Ukraine war with Her Excellency Caroline Vicini, who is the Swedish ambassador to Kenya, and Henriette Geiger, who is the EU ambassador to Kenya. So let's look at the commercial aspect of war, because we can't run away from it. That we know that though they may be few, there are those who benefit from conflict. And also we know that the business of war and conflict is not cheap. There are folks who are going to put their money behind it, and there are folks who are going to ask for something from it. So the EU has placed several sanctions on Russia today. And even if we look at the person of President Putin who is insisting on certain things, we can't run away from the persons who suffer from those sanctions in Russia. We cannot also run away from the mineral-rich Ukraine, for whom there's direct interest for a lot of people when we talk about this conflict. Where are we placing the commercial aspect of this conflict and the different players that we see? Can't run away from the US, can't run away from Russia itself, can't run away from what EU interests might be commercially. Where does this all play?
Complex question. I think the security military complex is always looking for opportunities to get their wares sold around the world. Now, the EU is not a military power per se. We were a political and foremost an economic union, and we were relying heavily on NATO to defend the EU. And due to the Ukraine invasion, the EU is now thinking and considering to build up its own defense. So this means that a lot more investment will go into building up our own defense capacity and to build military equipment ourselves. But you say yourself, it is very expensive to wage a war. Military equipment is crazily expensive, and this is felt. So whoever is involved in a war effort, and the EU is indirectly involved by supporting financially and militarily, that has an impact on the population. So I would like to say that after Gorbachev changed the course of Russia, there was a lot of money made very quickly, and you had a lot of Russian billionaires going out to the world, throwing around their money. So over the last decades, there have been a lot of Russian assets built around the world, and the idea also of freezing Russian assets overseas and using them for the defense of Ukraine, I think is a valid one. And of course, the sanctions that the EU is placing, first, we always try to limit the impact on the population.
Right.
So wherever we can, we sanction individuals. We try to target the sanctions, but it's not easy to cushion completely the general population from the impact. But Russia has been very skillfully going around the sanctions. Okay. So there were countries that were helping, also private business interests who opened channels of trade so Russia could circumvent the sanctions. I will stop here.
Yeah, I think we should not forget that we were very optimistic about Russia after the fall of the Iron Curtain or the wall.
Okay.
And I think one of the parts of what the EU tried to do was to create all these ties and links with Russia. So a lot of our companies invested in Russia. There was huge investments in production, there was trade, there was us seeing that, which the EU has done very in a very successful way with other countries. You know, you create these economic and ties and the people-to-people ties, so you create what we believed a peaceful coexistence where you are interdependent. Of course, when this happened, that was all thrown in the air, and our companies had to retreat from Russia very quickly. And we also started to be more careful with Russian investments in our own countries. And then we went all the way into the sanctions, in also as a peaceful means of trying to pressure Russia. We should remember these are ways of dealing with the conflict in a peaceful manner, not going into arms, is to try to put them under economic pressure, because to wage a war is costly even for a big country like Russia.
But there's something that is often forgotten, the historical tie that Ukraine actually has with Russia. Two Russian leaders, Khrushchev and Brezhnev, were Ukrainians. Yes. In 1954, Russia actually gave the Crimea to Ukraine. Ukraine was a breadbasket. Big industry, chemicals, ammunitions were stationed there. Why am I saying this? There was also a very huge population of Russians who lived and were in Ukraine. But this is a tool for colonization. It usually works that way. Imperialists bring their own people to occupy that place, and so that they have a legitimate claim as being part of it. What am I saying? Even with independence, when a region has played as important a role as Ukraine played in the USSR, don't you think that that particular former imperialist would not particularly be happy with letting go?
Yeah, and that has been the Russian argument all along. Yes. You know, that Ukraine is not a proper country. It is actually a part of Russia. But I think we have to look also at the self-determination of the people. And it was clear that the Russian, and it's even more clear today, I think it's blatant, that the Ukrainian population do not want to be a part of Russia. There are language, I do agree with that. I actually have a family member who is Ukrainian, but she was Russian speaking totally, and a big fan also of Putin until this happened. Now she speaks Ukrainian, and she has completely changed her views on Putin. But I come back to my own country. Both Norway and Finland were part of Sweden.
Yes.
There are Swedish is still a minority language in Finland. They were separated because the populations wanted to be free countries, and we let go of them in a peaceful manner. I look at the Czech Republic and the Slovak Republic. They were joined together. That was Czechoslovakia. They separated in a very peaceful manner. And so, I mean, if there is a will of self-determination, which we clearly see in the Ukrainian population, and I think it has grown during this war, this is something that should be accepted.
It's true. I'm introducing an academic subject. There was Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
And we saw how that went.
Yeah.
My point here is this. When a people seek self-determination, we've seen it on this continent. Look at Eritrea. Look at Djibouti. I mean, it's not new. It happens. Okay? But we also see unification of units. There's a gentleman called Otto von Bismarck. Knocked people's heads together and formed Germany. Yes, there was Garibaldi. Did the same in Italy. Knocked people's heads around and sort of like brought them together. So, yes, if historically speaking, all this makes perfect sense. However, when you look at the ideological discussion that seems to come from Russia related to what Putin has said, my colleague here raised it. NATO and what it is that they perceive to be a problem. See, it brings about something that hasn't happened since Second World War. Europe is now arming itself. That's why I asked the question when we were off air. A Third World War, what happens when Europe decides that they are now going to arm themselves and they're going to be battle ready? What then do we have? What are we looking at? Because that's the direction we seem to be heading towards.
definitely it's the direction we are aiming at. I can say my own country, we had written off Russia as a threat in the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s. And we let our own armed forces really shrink. They were only used for what we call expeditionary matters, going into peace missions, etc., UN missions around the world. Now we are spending more than 2% of our GNP to build up our armed forces again. We have grown our budget. We have doubled our budget since 2020. So yes, this is what is happening. This is what is happening, but it is happening under what is perceived as a real threat, and we cannot just sit and be peaceful. And when it comes to NATO, I know Russia has always claimed that NATO wants to go after Russia. I don't see that there is any proof of that. In reality, there was even a NATO-Russia Council in the end of the 90s that were discussing joint, trying to prevent war by being transparent. So I would say Sweden and Finland would never have taken this step to join NATO hadn't it been for this. I mean, it was very far in the future. Unless this war had happened. And you cannot, the problem is, I think, that we have been too naive and waited too long, and now there will be a huge rush to arm ourselves. And that, we should not forget, is to the detriment of our own populations as well, because we also, as every other country, we have schools, we have healthcare, we have social security, we have an aging population that is in need of a lot of care, etc. So there will be less for that and more going into our defense.
And I think it's important to bring the fast forward what's happening right now. It's out in public domain. President Donald Trump has announced the next round of Ukraine peace talks in Riyadh, I believe, Saudi Arabia, on February. That is 25th, tomorrow. I'm not sure you're aware of this, but there are a lot of concerns coming in, including what concessions could be there, potential outcomes for Ukraine and Russia war. There are, and I think I heard the president of the UN, or rather of the European Union, speaking today, saying the unilateral conversation that the Donald Trump presidency had with Russia is pretty much it, and Ukraine has to be given an input. I don't know what your thoughts are, and as far as these concessions are concerned, we're looking at mineral, gas, oil, a lot of things in play. Territorial matters, 80% of what was taken pre-war and post-war or during war. And I'm just curious to understand, as we anticipate these negotiations, do you think they will take place? Because there's fear of if they settle this matter, like you said, 2014 happened, it wasn't really fully sealed. We're not sure what Russia would do if this particular, negotiations go through. So what is the position of EU at this point in time, even as we look forward to tomorrow?
Yeah. So the EU wants peace, but not at all costs, because peace has to be just and sustainable. That is why the EU wants Ukraine at the table, and the EU also wants to be at the table when this is discussed. So there was some concern in Europe when Trump was announcing that he had unilateral talks with Putin, and they will just fix the thing as they see fit. So the European Union said Ukraine has to be at the table and the EU has to be at the table, because an unfair and unjust peace deal is not a real peace deal. It will lead to more conflict. So we are all very, very engaged in trying to find a solution. There was a peace conference already before made by Switzerland.
Yes.
So there are everybody is engaged in this, but we think that a peace conference needs everybody at the table to have any chance of success.
Is there any possible reason why Ukraine wasn't in the previous peace conversation where you're saying you need to be actually at the table? Why is it so? Because Russia seems to have a pretty much historic fastening relationship with the US, especially now after Donald Trump's inauguration and presidency. I don't know what you think, Her Excellency Caroline, this far.
No, I think you cannot achieve a peace above the head of the country and the population that has been attacked. We should not forget that. We should remember international law that is important for all our countries who are not superpowers. I think we can count Kenya in there, as well as we can count in Sweden and many of the other European countries. All of us are well served by international law that say that aggression should not pay off, and that everyone has the right to and everyone has the right to defend their own territory. To then make a deal, and I think also Africa should come back and think about this, because we are often blamed for the cutting up of Africa without African participation, which happened, you know.
Yes.
And that is seemed to be and is perceived as one of the many reasons for the different conflicts in Africa. So we should not go back. We should not go back to something like that.
Okay.
When we cut up a country or create a peace where the people who are concerned are not involved.
Your Excellency, people rarely consult you if they want to occupy your country. They just occupy it.
They occupy it and
yes.
talk about it
having
later.
occupied it, then you talk after the
invasion.
The ramifications of what we're saying are actually going to bring in a new world order.
Yeah, and our point, and I mean the EU is very, very firm on that. No peace in Ukraine without Ukraine at the table. Ukraine must be allowed to say, and not being under duress. We also have an experience with this, what we call the cold peace, in several conflicts where Russia has been involved. Nagorno-Karabakh is one, Transnistria is another, where you keep the country in a perpetual state of uncertainty and anxiety, and which, of course, does not allow economic development of the country as such, and that is not a durable solution for such a big country as Ukraine. Ukraine is a huge country. It's a big country.
And the understanding you spoke of, there are people who have alleged that there was an understanding about NATO and the former Soviet Union allied countries. Was there such an understanding that even as NATO progressed, that these countries would never join NATO?
I think there has been a lot of countries that have wished to join NATO. I look back historically also to my own history in diplomacy. I was working a lot with Albania at the time. I could never imagine that Albania would join NATO before Sweden. You know, at that time in the 90s, when Albania was a very small, poor country coming out of a situation that was North Korean-like, and I could never imagine that they would join NATO before us. That actually happened. But there are countries that have not joined NATO, I would say, because everyone knew it would be felt like a provocation.
Okay.
Why?
Indeed.
Okay.
Sorry?
No, I mean, look, I think obviously our time sometimes just is not on our side. It's 3 years and we're trying to cram this conversation into 1 hour.
Yeah.
And it looks at also, it's before that, it's 11 years from 2014. And we don't know what tomorrow looks like with certain, conversations coming out of the United States. And here we are saying that no peace without Ukraine on the table. What would the EU do tomorrow? And these are conversations that we need to continue engaging in and seeing how they do affect the rest of the world geopolitically. But at this point, I want to thank both of you for joining us this morning. And we'd just like to continue to see how these conversations will continue to develop. Her Excellency Caroline Vicini is the Swedish ambassador to Kenya, and Her Excellency Henriette Geiger is the EU ambassador to Kenya. Thank you very much, both of you, for being here this morning.
Asante sana.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Asante sana. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leo. Ubaga, 2 KRA officials arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport demanding a bribe are due to appear in court today. Detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission arrested the KRA officials Mutava Lawrence and Timothy Momanyi for allegedly demanding a bribe of 120,000 shillings to release a hold-up baggage at JKIA Airport. However, the passenger carrying the baggage refused to hand over the money and instead informed EACC officers who arrived and laid a trap to catch the two. In addition, EACC detectives recovered 297,000 shillings believed to have been obtained through corruption from 2 of the KRA officers in their vehicles. The 2 were detained for the entire weekend at the Industrial Area Police Station in Nairobi. One Kenyan officer who was part of the multinational security support mission in Haiti was killed yesterday during an operation in Segur-Sevienne. MSS Force Commander Godfrey Otunge says Officer Kitwai Samuel was seriously wounded and was airlifted to a level 2 hospital in Aspen, where he unfortunately succumbed to his injuries. The operation, carried out jointly by the Haitian National Police and the MSS with the support of the local population, aimed to weaken the Grand Griffe gang controlling the area. In another twist of events, where ODM leader Raila Odinga and his Wiper counterpart Kalonzo Musyoka are set to hold a meeting today to discuss issues plaguing the nation. The two, who've been leading the opposition despite divisions, are meeting today for the first time since Raila Odinga lost the AEC election in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Despite initial reports that Raila is on holiday in Dubai after the AEC election, Kalonzo's insiders say Musyoka and Raila will surely be meeting today to discuss whether they'll partner in the 2027 general elections. The meetings come as the ODM leadership has warned President William Ruto that it may call for nationwide protests if his government fails to put into account the needs of Kenyans. Professor Nyang' Nyong'o is the acting leader of the ODM party.
Jambo la kwanza ambalo tungependa kusema ni kwamba huduma.
My apologies for that, and this comes amid reports that President Ruto is also making every effort to ensure that Raila does not return to his opposition activities. Now, Tessa South MP Mary Emase has become the latest politician to slam the Catholic Bishop of Nyeri Diocese, Anthony Muheria, who criticized the government for allegedly continuing the tradition of announcing projects instead of actually implementing them. Emase says that although the church has the freedom to advise the government, it should do so in a way that does not incite dissent among citizens against the ruling government.
Juzi kidogo sisi kama wanasiasa tumesikia kuanuka ndani ya mioyo zetu, na nataka niongee na John Muheri, Bishop wa Nyeri. Mimi namtuma asome kitabu ya Matthew 22:2. It says the state and the church have distinct roles. Kanisa iko na kazi yake na serikali iko na kazi yake. Wabunge wa North Eastern wameomba rais barabara. Rais ameenda kutangaza barabara, lakini ni yapi tunaona kwa mtandao? Anadanganya, ni uongo.
And in the international scene, the Vatican is expected to issue an update on Pope Francis's health following his hospitalization on February 14th. In a message yesterday, the Pope asked Catholics to pray for him as he continues receiving treatment for double pneumonia. For the second consecutive Sunday, he was unable to personally deliver the traditional prayers. Now, this comes after the Vatican revealed on Saturday last week that the 88-year-old pontiff's condition remains critical. That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform, better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions, global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, at 6 minutes after 8 o'clock, getting into further conversations this morning and looking at other things that are making the news. Our conversation for 8 a.m. Starts in just a minute. But even as we do that, remember that if you're taking a break this morning, you're going to do it with Delamere. I'm going to tell you how we're going to share that later. But for now, Verto FX, if you run a business, a small business, a medium business, a large business with corporations, what are some of the things that we're looking at? Sometimes payment options are too slow. They're too expensive. They're hidden charges. You don't know if you can change into another currency. You don't know if it will reach another country. You don't know if your goods, we don't know. The Verto FX then just gives you this satisfaction of knowing. What do you know? Number one, that you can transact to 190 plus countries. Check. That you can transact in 49 different currencies. Check. That you can transact and your money will not get somewhere lost in the Bermuda Triangle. Check. That you can transact and you will not have hidden fees. Check. And that your fees for these transactions will be affordable. Check. 5 checks all in one. It's fantastic stuff. What you need to do to find out how you can make your business transactions seamless is get onto the website www.vertofx.com. Now, when you get all your ducks in a row and you're thinking about, okay, now is the time when I want to put a significant piece of real estate behind and I want to be able to do that through a mortgage, CT's been waving this magic wand for a couple of days and he's going to wave it a little bit more and spread some diamond dust in the air. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, diamond dust, here it comes. You want to buy a house.
Mm-hmm.
You want to own a home.
I do.
Me too.
The money you have is not quite doing the thing. Diamond Trust is saying, let us help you do the thing. Come talk to us. Either send us an email at mortgages@dtbafrica.com or visit any Diamond Trust branch. And this is what they will tell you. See, this is what we call a sneak preview. They will tell you that you will be eligible for a loan whether you are self-employed, whether you have a pay slip. They will also tell you that in addition to all these things, you will get 9% interest payment if you take a mortgage for 10 years. If you take a mortgage for 25 years, 9.75. They're also saying we do not have any hidden charges whatsoever. And we have a schedule of payment. If you pay ahead of that schedule, we will not penalize you. Now, let me just take a deep breath and ask you, do things get better than this?
It doesn't get better than that.
Exactly.
It doesn't get better than that.
Please, send an email or visit the nearest DTB branch.
You said mortgages at? Oh, you didn't say?
I did. At dtbafrica.com.
Mortgages at dtbafrica.com.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Dorice, so that when you buy that house and you get it all done, you'll invite us for what is that thing they call?
Housewarming.
Thank you
It's
very much.
housewarming.
yes.
Housewarming, not homecoming.
No. It is housewarming.
Okay.
Warming. Yes.
Sour. Now, 1 million people. 1 million people make their way into the job market every year. 1 million. 1 million. And sometimes folks don't have the skills that they need to be able to make the connect between here where you are and a job or a business. So we've seen the gap. Okay, we have now joined myself with KCB Foundation. And I say, you know what? Let's create something whereby folks will have the opportunity to then get the skills that they need to get into the job market or start a business. So it's the 2Jiajiri program. The 2Jiajiri program is connecting youth between the ages of 18 and 35 with the skills that they need to then enter said market. So you get into a 6-month training course, whether it's masonry, you want to be a mason? No problem. Whether it is automotive engineering, whether it is construction, beauty and design, tailoring up in a plethora of things that you can then get involved with. You get on the training for 6 months. You come out of that with a certificate. They give you the toolkit that you need to go and either start your own business or connect with a job, and a little bit of some credit so that you can actually start a business if that's what you want to do. They're able to also connect you around the country with opportunities in otherwise known as jobs that you maybe would not have been able to get before. So the 2Jiajiri program is making life better for those folks who got the shorter end of the stick and putting out 155,000 young people so far and counting. You also can be part of this. How do you want to do it? 18 to 35, you want to connect with skills that you need, not finding the way out. The 2Jiajiri program is there for you. Go to www.kcbgroup.com/foundation, find out about the next cohort, be a part of it, and make the connect between skills and opportunity.
And
yes.
Can you tell these guys what 2Jiajiri actually means?
No, now that's why you're here.
Yeah. You know, people have been saying, there are no jobs. We're waiting for the Serikali's idea. But this guy's actually saying you can create those jobs for yourselves.
Oh, 2Jiajiri for yourself.
Yes.
Voila.
Let us do this thing together. Let's stop the blame game and actually take over the initiative and do something about it. So, Najiajiri, 2Jiajiri, Sote, 2Jiajiri.
Bus. See, now you learn something new every day. Okay. So we're going to get into SHA conversation, and as we do that this hour, our guest will join us in a short while, I assume. There have been certain things that have been said over the last couple of weeks. SHA is not working. We cannot get the services that we need. It's only paying a certain amount. We don't know who's going to be able to help us. It goes on and on and on. Now, as though the water was not deep and murky enough, the rural and urban private hospitals are rejecting SHA, and they're also rejecting the police and teachers covers. And they're saying, no. Why are they doing this? Because you owe us a pretty sum of 8 billion shillings, and we're not going to be able to continue to offer the service when you have such a big debt. Now, this debt came under NHIF. NHIF has since transitioned to SHA, but they're saying that notwithstanding, it's still the same entity. You've not paid us that money. We don't know that you're going to pay us that money today. So in the meantime, we're not going to be able to take on any new patients. We're not going to be able to take in any new clients because of this big debt that you owe to us. Now, those who may have been under treatment before today, Monday the 24th, we will be able to take them in. We will be able to continue their treatment. Once they have been stabilized, we will then send them off to a facility of their choice, or have them pay cash. If you're coming to us, pay cash. Don't come to us under the cover. Don't come to us as police under the cover. Don't come to us as teachers under the cover, because you do what? You owe us money. It's possible that Dr. Brian Leshenga, who is the chair of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, is on his way, and he'll be with us in a few minutes. But even as we get into the conversation, let's just do a touch point.
Right.
That SHA rolled in on the 1st of October. It took a month to be able to kind of, settle everything. People were doing registration, etc., etc. And then we started to hear, not just out of the wood, but in terms of reality, what was going on. That folks were not able to access what they needed to in terms largely of information.
Yes.
That do I go to a level 1 hospital when I've had a recurrent issue with, dialysis? No. And the sad thing is that we were told, well, at this level, you cannot come. And that's where the conversation ended. In terms of information, in terms of what should be given to you for you to go on to the next, that was poor. And I think to their credit, whether it's coming from the Ministry of Health or whether it's coming from senior advisors of government or SHA itself, they have said that one of the big pain points for SHA has been the lack of proper communication, and that they wanted to see something that they would wanted to get into doing this properly. We've heard senior advisor Moses Kuria say this several times, even as late as a couple of days ago last week, where he said, yes, we know that communication is an issue. We need to be very clear about how this is all going to work. Now, we have also seen in the last couple of weeks that Director of Medical Services, Dr. Amoth, has said, you know what, we don't have enough money at shift level. Remember, this is where your contribution comes in. That 2.7% that you pay goes directly to shift, because that's now where your premiums go, and that's where now when you go to access medical care, your premiums come from that. Now, we are not able to pay enough to handle those situations. Why? Because not enough people are in the pool, and we cannot deliver as much as we would like to if we don't have enough people in the pool. So we're going to go out and try and see as many people as we can would register. As though night was not dark enough. This issue of 8 billion shillings has now come rearing its ugly head. And the private and faith-based organizations have said, you know what? Y'all owe us 8 billion shillings. You've owed us this money from 2017. We've been asking you to pay. You paid us a little bit, but now we're getting to the point whereby we're not able to continue offering these services if you're not going to pay us the money that you owe us. And this is where we are today. That if you come under SHA, you come to any of our facilities today, Monday the 24th, we're not going to be able to help you. If you come with cash, we can help you. But if you come under the cover, we are not going to help you. And that is where we stand today.
And you can imagine, as you have said so far, and all these guys we're talking about, teachers, police officers, it's not like they shouldn't actually get, quality health services. They are just like every other Kenyan, and they ought to get the services. However, these guys have been pushed to a tight corner. And according to Kenya Health Facility Census of 2023, 71% of all hospitals in Kenya are level 2, with 48% being government, 47% private, while 5% are faith-based. Now, the report shows that 20% of hospitals are level 3, while 7% are level 4, with only less than 1% being level 5 and 6. In that report, private hospitals are responsible for 46% of healthcare in the country. It's a dire need, however, that these particular records are set straight and things need to be moving, because you know how many Kenyans will be running to not private hospitals, but these public, hospitals and health or religious-based hospitals. Now, so far, the issue is what we're calling a crisis. All right, it is a crisis. Now, I like what Wendu said, that communication is the heart of this problem. But the effort of making sure that we cure, all right, we're looking at this is going over and over, even through the transition. It has always been, could you please get down not only communicating to those recipients of the service, but the health practitioners as well, and the stakeholders. Now, the billions that we're talking about are essentially things that ought to have been done, settled, NHIF, defunct, crossing over into the shift, which is now essentially causing this puzzle. When is a question.
Well, one would have to go back to the issues that bedeviled NHIF.
Yes.
At that point, to be able to find out, all right, that there were premiums that were being paid by many a Kenyan. I believe on the grid at the time, the former NHIF boss told us very clearly, I think at that point we had about 13 million people contributing, between 13 and 14 million people contributing to NHIF at that time. And give or take the 800 shillings or 1400 shillings that was paid, that is the kind of money that they had to then pay for medical services would you present yourself to hospital. Now, unfortunately, many times what were dealt with was issues of corruption at that level.
Yes.
That they couldn't find they couldn't find a lot of the funds that would come in at that point, and that it was very clear that this money was then unavailable to have people treated in the manner in which they should. Now, if this is a carryover, so now today we're dealing with a hangover of things that were happening during NHIF, but we still have the same governing body.
Right.
We still have the same governing body today who is handling these matters to be able to tell us, okay, so what exactly is going to happen and which direction are we then essentially going to take? Well, we're going to get into that conversation this hour. And as we do, Dr. Brian Lishenga is the chair of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya, and he's here with us this morning. Daktari, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well, and how are you?
Good. I'm doing as well as I can do.
We have been waiting for you. Have your woes been plaguing you this morning?
Have
your woes been plaguing you this morning? Because we've waited for you for a minute.
Yes. Quite a bit happening everywhere around the country.
Yeah.
And so I'm on call most of the time, and meetings back to back.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, let's welcome you today with today's proverb, and CT is in a different African country today. Okay. Let's hear what it is that you have to say about that, and then we get into this conversation.
Yes. We are in the Republic of Mali. Mali. Mali in Kiswahili means what?
Wealth.
Yes.
Mali safi.
Okay.
It just came to my mind.
Okay, let me give you a wealth proverb, shall I?
Yes.
Okay. He who longs too much for a child will marry a pregnant woman.
I don't know whether this is a case of the end justifies the means.
It could.
It strikes me like something like if you are waiting for something, the child is the objective here, and so one way to get to that objective is to marry a woman who is already expectant. And in history, there's so many examples of this. It's a great show. It's a great approach.
It's a good approach.
Yeah, it's a good approach.
Good approach to what exactly?
To fixing that problem.
At least you're sure of the end result.
You're sure.
See, this man is a doctor. So when he tells you fix that problem,
yeah,
indeed, huh?
Okay.
Yes, it solves that problem, doesn't it?
It does solve the problem.
Problem.
Yes,
that
and
problem,
okay.
As long as you keep your private matters private.
Yes.
The baby is gonna be yours.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
After all, it's in your house.
Yes.
Okay.
House, yeah.
They would never know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So talking about things in your house, Daktari, there's a small matter of 8 billion shillings. There's a small matter, well, actually, maybe even a larger matter now, of folks who are going to turn up to hospitals today, who will turn up to private hospitals, who will turn up to faith-based hospitals or facilities, are hoping to access their medical services under their Asha covers and are not going to be able to do so. Why?
So the issue here is an issue of government. Government exists in perpetuity, So in essence, even if you elect different people, government is government. So when you transition, say, from the Jubilee administration to the Kenya Kwanza administration, you change the people, but government remains government. And that is why, for instance, we have sovereign debt obligations that were taken under the Kibaki era, the Uhuru era. And when Uhuru took over, he had to service Kibaki era sovereign liabilities. His Excellency, the President, has to service any liabilities that were taken over under His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, the former president. And so the contention here has been the handling of NHIF liabilities, which in real sense, and this is one of the things that private hospitals and faith-based hospitals are trying to get the country to understand, that we offer credit facility to government. When we provide healthcare under SHA and MAKL for teachers and police officers, what we are essentially doing is providing services on credit. I hear a certain narrative which I want to clarify this morning, that people use examples of patients who have gone to hospitals and gotten care approved for huge amounts of money. I had a surgery, SHA paid for me 500,000, 400,000, 300,000. And we tend to use this as examples that evidence that SHA is working. I just want to clarify that what you are celebrating is the extension of credit by a hospital to the government. That is what you are really celebrating. You should be celebrating the goodwill of healthcare providers to provide that credit service without unduly inconveniencing you. So the issue here is that when we are saying SHA is working, we are actually saying hospitals are working. They are doing what they are supposed to do regardless of the financial situation they are going in. But I also want us to understand that even if you have a credit facility somewhere, it is not limitless. It is not in perpetuity. If you take a credit facility somewhere, you even, people will understand, even your local duka, from time to time they put a poster saying no credit facilities accepted here anymore. You have gotten used to, you reach there in the evening and you go to the canteen and say, give me milk, I will pay you, and you have some sort of arrangement. At some point, if that shop gets to a point where your record in that Excel book has become too big, they are going to tell you that unfortunately today we can't give you milk and bread because you see you have not been servicing your credit facility. So people might praise that shop or the credit facility, say it's amazing. But the day when the chickens come home to roost and you have to service your debt, if you don't service your debt, there are consequences.
Okay. So what we're saying essentially that across board, and we're not just talking about now private hospitals, rural hospitals, the faith-based hospitals, but across board, that Ndu went to hospital, accessed medical care, I was hospitalized for 3 days, whatever the case may be. I've come out of it, given my SHA credentials, it's paid. That's done. But what you're saying is it's a credit facility that has been rendered essentially to government, and later they'll sort out the issues, but I walk out.
Yes.
Okay, so I walk out of hospital and I've been sorted.
And this is why people elect governments, because governments guarantee that you will get public services.
Right.
But they guarantee this on the back of contracts with different service providers. And hospitals, public, private or mission, are actually service providers who are on contract with government. We are all offering services on behalf of government.
So in the back end, what we are saying essentially is then that the movement of then funds from government to these institutions is not happening.
This is exactly what we are saying. And unfortunately, the posture taken by government is that continue. And you just continue providing care. It is a what public good. Healthcare is a very sensitive matter. I just want to paint the picture here. That you have a SHA under Article 50 of the SHA Act, the Chief Act that created the Social Health Authority, which is also known as the first schedule. That first schedule clearly states that SHA will inherit all the assets and liabilities of NHIF. Now, NHIF has buildings like the headquarters at the Rigati Road is one of the assets. The vehicles, the computers, the desks, even the HR was inherited. But we have a situation where the posture of those who took over has been that we are fine using the assets, but we are not fine with the liabilities. So this posture is what is crippling the sector. Now, there are those who argue that SHA is paying providers so well and so promptly and so earlier than the debt. We have a contract that says we should be paid within 90 days. Now, SHA has been doing everything it can to service providers earlier than 90 days. Of course, there are challenges there because even that earlier than 90 days does not mean that all the claims are being paid. So if you go granular, you find that, yes, they are doing earlier than 90 days, but not 100% because of technical issues with the SHA ERP. However, the key point here is that the money that we are receiving for SHA debt is not a favor. This money that they are paying us now for offering services to SHA clients is actually a contractual obligation that they have to pay that money. So if Ndu comes to hospital and hospital in good faith offers you services, it is not a favor when SHA pays that hospital. So they cannot go around trumpeting and say, but we are doing so well for these hospitals, they should be happy. Why would you celebrate if somebody pays you your debt? Why would you go and say you are such a nice person, you pay debts, etc. The only thing you do is that because of the goodwill they have demonstrated, you continue extending the credit service. Now, in the case of SHA, what is happening is that, and then I should make this point, that when you pay us for SHA debt, that money is used to pay service providers within the health ecosystem for SHA services. So that surgery we did, there is a doctor behind it, there is a nurse behind it, there's a pharmaceutical company behind it now, not yesterday, now. So when you pay me, I service those guys. Now, the problem we have is that you have not paid me for guys that serviced me since 2017. There are people who serviced us since 2017 that have not been paid.
Right.
So those guys who happen to be the same guys who are offering services now, what they tell hospitals is, you've called me for that appendectomy. I will come, but please remember you owe me money from 2019. So if you really want me to come, do this. You pay me for 2019, then I'm going to come and sort out your case. So this is not a strike. We want the Kenyan public to understand that this is not a strike. This is a stoppage of extension of credit facility to government because government has been a bad creditor. This is what it is. So we have been giving them credit facilities. Now we have the option of either we auction our business, we retrench our staff, or we end up in small claims court. So it is either us or them.
But I have to ask a question. I'm going to go to a break. Sorry. I know you have a question and it's burning. You two also angry. We'll come back in a minute. But obviously, when somebody has your money, you ask them regularly, CT, how far? What's happening? Isn't it? When do you think we can clear this? 2017 to 2025 is 8 years, So what has been the response when the question has been, when do you think we will get these payments that are owed?
Even though I believe you got about 4.5 billion, was that given to you guys?
So let me I take this and then. So over the years, what has been happening is a shifting of goalposts. So payment of in piecemeal. You need to understand that unlike road contractors and people who supply stationery, you see when you are doing a road, the road is 28 kilometers. You start from here, you stop from here. That is done. Everybody goes home. You cannot extend it to become 28.5. It is done. You don't keep constructing a road in perpetuity. However, when you are offering healthcare services, you offer healthcare services forever, because they are human beings.
Yes.
So we are in a situation where you cannot lump us with other government contractors because you are still incurring our debt even now as we talk. Today, as we speak, as we are here right now, SHA is still asking hospitals to incur more debt. So even, just to answer your question, even the 4.5 billion is a drop in the ocean. Between October and today, as we are talking since SHA transitioned, SHA has already accumulated 18 billion worth of claims.
Which means they have given services worth 18 billion.
This is the claims that Kenyans have produced, 18 billion worth of claims, of which SHA, in its own statements before Parliament, has paid 11 billion. So there is still 7 billion some money there. And by the end of today, it will be 7 point something billion. It is continuing to go on. So we must have a commitment from government that this is not, healthcare cannot be funded the way you fund, for example, infrastructure projects. It is a permanent obligation. And therefore, you are asking me for credit daily. You are asking providers for credit daily. Some people asked me, why is it that, say, some public hospitals, the cost of care is cheaper? I always tell them the cost of care is not cheaper at public hospitals. If you want to feel cost of care at public hospitals, just remember how much you're paying in taxes.
Indeed. All right. Dr. Brian Lishenga, who is the chair of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association, is our guest this hour. We're looking at this very critical issue whereby if you turn up to hospital today, if you turn up to a private hospital today, you will not be able to access under your SHA cover. And the question is why? Well, because there's some money owed, and that's not been sorted out just yet. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
17 and sunny conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25, and it's 17 and sunny in Nakuru with 17 and sunny conditions in Nyeri as well. 20 and sunny and a windy morning in Eldoret, going to highs of 27, while we look at the sunny conditions at 28 in Mombasa. Malindi at 28 is partly sunny as well. It's 23 and sunny in Kisumu and warming up, highs of 34, and we'll see highs of 34 in a sunny Kakamega at 21. Kampala is sunny at 23 with highs of 32, and we're looking into a sunny Dar es Salaam going to highs of 33. Johannesburg at 18 is sunny and cloudy at the same time. Don't know how that is, but okay. Highs of 26. It's Mogadishu sunny at 27, and Addis Ababa at 17 is sunny as well. Lagos is cloudy at 27, and we'll see sunny conditions through Kinshasa, currently at 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life.
All right, we stepped into traffic hour a while ago, and it's still pretty busy as you get into the city. Uhuru Highway now taking on that traffic as you come in then from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Even before that, Capital Centre is bumper to bumper through towards Nyayo Stadium, and then you get onto Uhuru Highway, and it's going to clog up for you until you get towards Haile Selassie. Getting into the CBD, it's going to even out just a little bit, but it's still busy in many parts. As you come off the Thika Superhighway at the Allsops Junction, some traffic heading out there and through towards the roundabout at Globe Cinema, so that goes slowly there. Lower Kabete towards Spring Valley has quite some traffic this morning, and it is bumper to bumper. As you get onto United Nations Avenue and out towards Limuru Road, it's busy. We're also looking at traffic on Langata Road today. Some of that dissipated, but Ngong Road still busy now. So still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we pan out. We'll talk on Spice FM KE on X hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, CT, it's burning.
Is it? Is there a solution to these problems?
Good question. Good question, CT. There is a solution. When I speak to Ministry of Health representatives, it is clear to us that the bottleneck is at the National Treasury. Sometimes they come out very clean and they say that we are on the same side with you guys. We want the NHIF arrears sorted. But we also go with a begging ball to Treasury and say, please give us something. So you must understand that at the core of this is national priorities that the country needs to decide. The nation needs to decide, the government needs to decide what is really important. And I think that education, for example, if we just look at any society, two things, education and healthcare are really non-negotiable goods that governments must provide. And then you can add things like infrastructure, water, and etc. But education and healthcare are non-negotiable for the well-being of a society. If we look at how government is doing its priorities, they have said the first charge on the consolidated fund is sovereign debt.
Yes.
I think the second charge should be any pending bills. Because if you look at it, this country is grinding to a halt. The economy is grinding to a halt because small business people who have rendered government, and government is the largest purchaser of goods and services. They have rendered services to government over the years, have totally been ignored, and that has strangled the economy to an extent that even, banks have stopped loaning businesses. You have businesses that have scaled down massively over the past few years. Now, I don't know about other sectors of the economy, but the healthcare sector generally is much more organized in terms of coming to the table than other sectors. I don't know whether road contractors have associations or they can do things like that. But maybe it's also the problem of you create a road, you finish, you go. But our sector offers services in perpetuity. And so if you look at it, the solution would be, and we had hoped that the supplementary budget that has just been passed would address this issue of liabilities to the healthcare sector. But we were very disappointed with what we saw. Because, for instance, on primary healthcare, they only added 1.8 billion. And we have been here since last year saying 4.1 billion that was allocated was too little. We had actually proposed, and they know. Actually, they know. You know, the Ministry of Health has some very brilliant people. They do extremely brilliant. If you look, I mean, if anyone has taken any time to look at policy documents that are churned out by the Kenyan Ministry of Health, they are world class. You know, extremely good documents. So these guys know that we need at the minimum 45 billion shillings, for example, to provide primary health services. It is a fact. You cannot even escape it. So when you in turn see a government that is allocating 1.8 billion for a population of 50 million people, you immediately understand that we have a critical question of national priorities. What is important to us as a state?
Right.
Now, when I spoke to the Ministry of Health officials yesterday, one of the things that really got to me and really annoyed me was one person telling me, why do you guys in healthcare think you are so important? You see?
Is it that correct statement?
I'm quoting verbatim.
Okay.
Why do you in healthcare? Do you know how many pending bills we have in this country? Then I said, I am aware you have over 600 and something billion pending bills. Then he said, but why do you guys in healthcare think you're so important? I told him that we are only asking for 30B. And you can have a healthcare. This is touching literally every citizen, every home, every corner of this country. Every person is touched. You cannot compare this to, for example, road construction. It will be people in Turkana who will benefit from that road. But when you are paying 30 billion, which is, by the way, smaller than the cost of doing some roads, you touch every single Kenyan life.
Including those ones in that place where the road was being built.
Including those ones immediately, because you build a road and the road leads to no hospital. What the purpose of the road anyway? The road is supposed to get you to a hospital that is functioning.
And on time.
And on time. So we are in the position where the settlement of NHIF arrears for us as a sector is non-negotiable. It is not something that we are going to budge on. It is not something, because as I have said, it is either they settle NHIF liabilities or the sector shuts down.
You know, I just want to make it as simple as it can be for all those policemen and teachers and the other stakeholders, including the ministry listening today, that there are consequences to what you have, resolved to doing today. We're talking about those who cannot be able to first register, and then secondly, those who will be asked to please consider another healthcare facility at the moment. Just paint the picture of what exactly the impact would be, the happenings of today, to those who really need that service. Yes.
So yesterday we issued guidelines on how services should be suspended.
Yes.
And the purpose why we issued guidelines is because we are professionals and we are ethical and we understand that healthcare is extremely critical. And the patients who come to our hospitals are patients whom we have a relationship for many years. These people some of them have literally become family. You know, you've been seeing people form very personal relationships with their doctors. You've been seeing this doctor, and sometimes when they come to hospital, they even say, I will come back if Dr. So-and-so is not there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we understand we have a relationship and a duty to our clients. So we issued guidelines yesterday that informed the public that no one will be turned away if you are in an emergency. So emergency medical services are a constitutional right, and nobody in Kenya should be denied life-saving intervention in the situation of an emergency. So all the facilities under our network will continue to provide emergency care. If somebody shows up in hospital for any reason that is endangering their life, their immediate survival, they will be assisted, and they will be assisted according to normal protocol.
Okay.
We also said in the guidelines that if you are in the hospital right now and you are admitted before the 24th of February, today, if you are in hospital, nothing is going to change. Your existing terms of admission will continue, and we are not changing those terms.
Okay.
So patients who are on the ward should not be worried that at the end of discharge, something is going to change. No, the way you are admitted, if you are under SHA cover or the police cover, we are handling that the same manner. This also goes to pre-booked appointments that were scheduled before 24th. Here I am talking about, for instance, patients who had pre-booked dialysis, pre-booked chemotherapy sessions. These patients are not going to be disrupted because your appointment was made before the suspension.
Okay.
So we are continuing with care that way. The difference is going to be any new patients that arrive in hospitals starting today. We will very politely and professionally inform them that services under SHA and MAKL for police officers are temporarily suspended.
Unless they have cash.
Unless they have cash or they have. And we will also offer them the option of referral. We are going to be extremely ethical about this. Patients will be referred to facilities of their choice. If patients have alternative medical cover, we will continue to receive that alternative medical cover.
Okay.
And the key statement here is that this suspension is temporary. Some of the statements that people from government are telling us that, please send us the list of all facilities that want to decontract from SHA. We are happy to decontract them immediately. First of all, this is the worst kind of insensitive kind of statements because
when did this statement come and
yesterday,
and from whom did it come?
Was it verbal or written?
It is written. Okay, so we are exchanging. So they write to us and yes. Because we are in a WhatsApp group with many of them.
Okay.
And this also goes to show that we are willing to talk.
Okay.
We will not stop to be in any forum.
Is it the ministry?
It's the ministry, the presidential people. Right. It's a lot of people. Let's just say it's government. Okay. So if you want to be decontracted, tell us now. Give us the list of those facilities who you want to decontract. We can decontract even tonight. Then I am like, you guys are not serious with life. The private sector provides half of healthcare in Kenya. The public sector is not in any place able to take the volume of patients who will come if you decontract over 600 healthcare facilities. Where do you want Kenyans to go? So there is an insensitivity at the core of government that is not in touch with the reality of common people. For us, we are saying, look, we do not have a problem with SHA. We supported SHA reforms. We even said that the primary healthcare fund, the emergency critical and chronic illness fund are great innovations. But we have been very particular that government has to put its money where the mouth is. You don't create a fund and then you don't fund it. Okay. You also don't contract providers and then you don't pay them. Because let me tell you, the private sector and faith-based organizations have been subsidizing government on healthcare.
Yes.
We have been financing healthcare for years. Financing ourselves. People take overdrafts. People have collateralized their land, their buildings to provide services. And the reason why I want Kenyans to understand this, it is when you walk into a hospital, I started by saying this, when you walk into a hospital and you walk out and you say, my SHA card worked, I want you to remember it is the hospital that worked. It is that hospital on goodwill because the government has promised to pay it at some future date that said, I don't care, I will not inconvenience this person before me, I have my own issues with government, I will sort it out. Government has abandoned you. It has said that you and the hospital have your own relationships. Mutajisort.
Let me ask you a question that we've been asking and folks have been talking about for the last couple of months, and it's a simple yes or no question before I go to the next one. Is SHA working?
SHA is working because hospitals are
Is
working.
SHA
No.
working?
Is SHA, okay, let me add something to it. Is SHA working as it was originally designed to, with all factors constant? Is SHA working?
It's a very complex question. NHIF is working.
NHIF does not exist.
I have.
Let him.
Let's understand. Yes.
I have given you a straight answer. NHIF is working. The only fund that is working in SHA is the SHIF fund. Remember, we have three funds: primary healthcare fund, social health insurance fund, and the emergency chronic and critical illness fund.
And to be clear, that the social health insurance fund is where your premiums go and what they pay
100%.
for. Okay.
You see, when Kenyans are saying I'm paying more now than I was paying under NHIF, they are paying to SHIF.
Yes.
SHIF is the one that is receiving your contributions from your salary, or if you are an informal sector, that premium you are paying is SHIF. So SHIF is working.
Okay.
SHIF is working without any contradiction. The two new funds that were, and essentially those two new funds are the reform.
Yes.
You see,
the two. So SHIF is essentially NHIF.
SHIF is NHIF with more money.
So social health insurance funds, national health insurance funds.
Yeah, this is fine. So SHA.
SHA is not working.
So SHA is when you present yourself to hospital, level 1 or 2, or at that level whereby you're saying basic care, and which essentially government should pay for.
not SHA. So SHA is this authority that is
Yes.
managing
That oversight
everything.
The oversight,
the umbrella.
the oversight umbrella that has now 4 baskets under it.
Under it.
All right.
It has the primary healthcare fund for sorting out your outpatient.
Yes.
Okay.
When you go, these are the 80% of Kenyans go for outpatient. Very few of us get admitted when we go to hospital. So the vast majority are in the primary healthcare fund, Fund 1.
Yes.
The second is in the shift fund, which is now sorting out your admissions, okay, especially at level 4, 5, and 6, and your surgeries. That is the fund that I am saying is working. But that fund is essentially NHIF, as it were,
With more money.
With more money,
Right.
because you know why it has more money. Now, the third fund is the emergency, chronic, and critical illness
care. Yes.
fund. Now, I want to just ask you, if you think critically what you have been listening, the things that are not working are 2 major things. Patients who are going to seek outpatient services, and patients who end up in ICU or they require cancer care, or they require, care of dialysis. These are so. If you
essentially, you're right,
Yeah.
Terry, because these are the complaints that we hear over
Yes.
time.
Yes.
That I have gone to hospital.
Yes.
And I'm just going to take one one case that we heard here over the phone, where we had people who were speaking to us, right? And so, just for purposes of understanding this a little bit more, a gentleman who had gone with a headache issue that he had, and he went, and this was your primary level, it was outpatient case, and he was essentially turned back because he was told, well, we're not going to be able to handle that here.
Yeah.
What they didn't tell him is where he should have gone to be able to have that case handled. So at that level, we have a bit of, we have some communication issues are the major, is the bane of that particular area. Now, when you go up here, when you're going to ICU, again here where I was dealing with a case just a few weeks ago, where there's a patient in ICU with a bill of almost 600,000 shillings, and SHA eventually ended up paying 84,000 bob.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that is where the issue is, that critical care, and down here where you have nothing to do with the payments.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't.
Hold.
All right, City. Yes, holding.
Calling us to order.
Yes, me, I was okay. The SHA thing I got.
Yes.
I'm a bit slow.
Okay.
So let's walk at my pace.
Okay.
Primary health.
Outpatient. Yes.
That one I got.
Yes. You don't pay for that.
I don't pay for that.
No, you don't.
No, but there's a 75.
No, hold on.
Okay.
At that first level, when you go and you want to see the doctor, and you can stop me if I'm wrong, Dr.
Okay.
When you want to go and see the doctor, right, outpatient, and they go, maybe you need to see, essentially, government is supposed to pay for that. You should essentially go to hospital under your SHA cover.
Be walk in, walk out.
You should walk in and, yes,
Yeah,
you should walk in and walk out without paying a dime.
Okay. If all that has taken me is for the doctor to tell me I don't have tonsillitis, I don't pay a thing.
Nothing.
That's it.
Or if they want to give you like a painkiller or whatever, an antibiotic, you should leave without anything.
The promise is that you should walk in and walk out.
Yes.
The promise.
Okay.
That's what we call free, meaning no money comes from my pocket at that point in time.
It's funded by government.
Okay, that one I've gotten. Then we come to emergency and critical care.
No. That's the other.
Up there.
No, it is up there.
Step by step.
But who pays for this?
Government.
Emergency.
Now, the one in the middle. Okay.
What is the one in the middle?
It's this one where it's shift, okay?
Oh,
the
shift
one in the middle is where you go.
Admission.
Yes.
So when I'm admitted,
so admitted.
Yeah, but critical care, I'm admitted. Yeah, am I not?
Hang on.
So let me just explain, City. So they separated admissions into critical, chronic, and regular admissions. So patients are put in different categories depending on the severity of their medical condition.
Right.
So if it's an emergency case, you will be under the emergency chronic and critical illness fund. But if you have a chronic illness, and we have medical definitions for what a chronic illness is, it has to go beyond a certain time, and it has to be a disability that stays with you, let's say, for life.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So that fund is the emergency chronic and critical illness fund.
Okay.
But most patients fall under the shift fund when they are admitted.
Yes.
So this
And
emergency
you pay for
chronic
it.
critical, that is what we are calling the third tier.
Yes.
The third tier, yes.
And this one, who pays for it?
Government and donors.
Just hold it. So the fund that this money that I am paying
is in the middle.
It just goes to shift, Period.
Yeah.
Yes.
So government is taking care of primary health.
Yes, and
Government is taking care
critical
of chronic.
Critical, yes.
So we have a problem.
Yes. So this is what we're saying. So where we are now, that Terry, this is why I'm saying. So where we are now is what is working is where
what
Kenyans are paying.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have gotten it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the only thing that is working is the one which you are
Paying for.
Very
Which
interesting.
means it is not all bad, is it?
No. It's a mixed
So
bag.
what I'm paying for actually works. isn't it?
Exactly.
All right.
But what the problem
But is it
is
enough for
here,
your critical?
the problem is here
Yes.
is that government promised you,
Yes.
Yes. they
okay,
did. Yes, they
that
did.
at levels 1,
Yes.
2, 3.
3,
You are fine.
you would be okay.
Okay. All right. I'm not okay.
So
Yeah.
now do we understand?
Yes. No,
Yes.
But you said there were 4 levels. We had 3. What's the fourth one?
Sorry, for facilities or the fourth fund.
Yeah.
That is the civil service fund,
Okay.
which was recently incorporated, we think extrajudicially or extra legal.
Is it?
Because you see the social health, the Chief Act, which established everything,
Didn't have it.
only has 3 funds. Okay, so this other fund has been snuck in, but it's okay, you know. But so it is the civil servants fund.
Okay.
So SHA, this large authority is managing these 3 pockets, these 4 pockets.
And civil service fund, who funds this one?
They are what are they called? Collective bargaining agreements between civil servants and government.
All right.
So this is from their payroll. As you are getting employed, one of the benefits you are given as a civil servant is a medical cover.
That's
Thank
where
you
the
very much.
police
Who
and the
pays for
teachers are
it?
coming in.
You could say, to be precise, government pays for that.
Okay.
No.
Let me
But you
just
don't contribute.
No, but it's a benefit that they give to civil servants. It's an employer benefit. So it is the employer who remits the funds. It's government who remits the fund. Can I just push this a little bit,
Yes,
City?
yes, you-
Anywhere you go to hospitals, those 3 funds, the primary healthcare fund, the chronic and critical illness fund, and the civil servant scheme are the ones that are dragging down this thing. And if you ask yourself who is responsible for them, it's government. Government is responsible for primary healthcare, is responsible for civil servants, is responsible for emergency, chronic, and critical illness. Right now in Nairobi, and okay, now it's countrywide.
Yes.
There is no civil servant who can get care under the civil servant scheme. That one is just an iceberg. We are not even talking about that. The reality of the matter is that if you are a civil servant, no hospital will take civil service cover. And if you ask hospitals, why are you not taking civil servants cover? They will tell you, these civil servants haven't paid us since 2017. They have our money for years. And who is supposed to pay civil servants money? It is their employer, aka government. So the problem we have, like literally, I want Kenyans to understand this, that the government is not putting its money where its mouth is, and it is not showing commitment to address its obligations. It is basically what government is saying, and I have alluded to it here, is that why should healthcare think it is special?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. You know, I think, look.
There's an interpretation that I have to offer.
All right.
It comes out as though this is insensitive and rude. But what if the person you're talking to finds themselves in a position where they actually do not know what to do? Because, yes,
How?
that is an official. Okay? Do you really think the person that they're talking to is the person who determines where the money goes? No.
Okay, who are you talking to?
No, that's not the person who determines where the money
Who
goes.
are you talking
No.
to? Because as far as we are concerned, he's mentioned.
I'm telling you.
We're talking to literally everyone who has power within the ministry.
And they wouldn't know what they're supposed to do.
Yes. Please let me explain what I'm saying. They may be high-ranking officials. Are they the final word as to where the money goes? No. First of all, we have a budget-making parliament, don't we? So are we saying that it is the ministry that influences what amount is actually allocated to healthcare? Or are we saying, because if we say that, then we're saying then that parliament we have should not exist.
Because it's
a budget-making parliament.
Is it the treasury?
But we still also, so you make a good point, City. We still need to hold Parliament accountable. And I think this is a message to citizens that last week when the SHA officials went to Parliament and asked for 77 billion in more funding, Parliament turned them down.
Yeah.
For me, this was really a shame, regardless of whatever problems we might say SHA has. SHA needs money. So it is not fair for parliamentarians to turn them down when they make requests for money. I think that for them to throw at SHA 1.8 billion, really, they are punishing Kenyans. Their parliament is punishing Kenyans just to look good that they are doing something.
I need you to tell us in 30 seconds, Dr. because our time sadly is running out. So the hospitals where people essentially will go today and not get the care that they need under the authority, when will this change? Are we saying that money in the bank now opens this up again? What are we talking about?
We are willing to talk.
Okay.
And we have told everyone who can listen to us that we understand that you are in a tight physical space. You know, that's what government has said over and over. We don't have all the resources. Fine. We are reasonable people. We are service providers. Let them give us a payment plan at the very minimum. Okay. We have claims at NHIF that were at accounts payable that are at EFT stage. It just needs a click of a button, and those payments are in hospital bank accounts. Anything that is at accounts payable or at EFT stage, which they froze in October last year, they should press the button and release the money. That is the first thing. So for us, NHIF issues are non-negotiable. There are other claims within NHIF that were still at different stages. We are okay. It will take 2 months, a month to adjudicate. As long as there is goodwill and commitment to adjudicate those ones, we are fine as long as they are going. In fact, what we have proposed is just agree to pay a little amount every month. Okay, until all this debt it clears. We will talk to our banks. We will talk to our suppliers and tell them
it's coming in Abuja. It's going to rain. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Dr. Brian Lishenga. We know what we want to do. We know that it's a bit of a tight spot, and you need to take a break at some point because you're going to be having many meetings with many people this morning, and going into Monday, it's going to be a crazy day. We're going to need you to take an moment, not a SHA moment, an moment with Delamere yogurt. It's great stuff. If CT gives you the strawberry, which I see that's what he's holding, it's got real fruit in it. So have an moment with Delamere on us.
Okay.
There you go.
Cool you down a little bit.
Okay, guys.
At least he's smiling his way out.
I have not had breakfast, so this is amazing.
Very healthy.
And this is what Delamere says. That can be your breakfast on the go. Thanks for being here this morning.
Amazing.
Dr. Brian Lishenga is the chair of the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association. Asante Sana. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. We would not be where we are if Azimio was in power. This is the statement of Martha Karua, who has explained the reasons why she changed the name of her party from NAK Kenya to People's Liberation. In an interview with our sister station Radio Maisha, Karua said Kenyans need a hopeful leadership, especially after experiencing economic difficulties.
Kiangalia manifesto yetu ilikuwa tofauti. Nimeanza na kusema tungekuwa na universal healthcare, cradle to grave. Tungekuwa na elimu bila malipo. Malipo ni kodi yako. Serikali inalipa hiyo ingine. Ingekuwa from ECD ndivyo tulikuwa tumepromise university. Na wale wanashangaa wanauliza pesa itoke wapi. Elewa ya kwamba budget ikiwa ni trilioni 3, trilioni 1 inatumika vibaya. Tungechunga pesa na kuendelea na mipango ya kuhudumia Wakenya.
Karua says President William Ruto has failed to lead Kenya, claiming that all his projects have failed in their implementation. She reiterated that the time has come for Kenyans to elect a different president to save the economy.
Na kurudia kosa sio tu kumchagua William Ruto na watu yake, ni kuchagua mtu yeyote anaweza angamiza nchi yetu. Wewe unachukua ndereva ameangusha kila kitu. Hiyo ndio SHA ya kukukalia chapati, na hata ukijipeleka hospitali kama huyo mama wanaweza kuja kukuabduct kwa hospitali. Tunauliza Daktari William Ruto ametuambia yeye ni daktari, ni PhD holder. Kama ni ya mambo ya sayansi na mimea, enda fanya kazi ya mimea, wachia hii kazi ya kuendesha Kenya wale wanaelewa.
And speaking of Shah Chair, Rural Urban Private Hospitals Association Chairman, that is Dr. Brian Lishenga, says that they've been offering credit facility to government. Speaking on Spice FM, Lishenga said that Shah is not working in these facilities, making it hard for them to operate with a debt as big as 30 billion shillings.
The issue here is that when we are saying SHA is working, we are actually saying hospitals. They are doing what they are supposed to do regardless of the financial situation they are going in. But I also want us to understand that even if you have a credit facility somewhere, it is not limitless. At some point, that shop gets to a point where your record in that Excel book has become too big. They are going to tell you that unfortunately today we can't give you milk and bread because you see you have not been servicing your credit facility. But the day when the chickens come home to roost and you have to service your debt, if you don't service your debt, there are consequences.
Lishanga says the government has put them in a limbo due to arrears that date back to 2017.
When you pay us for SHA debt, that money is used to pay service providers within the health ecosystem for SHA services. So that surgery we did, there is a doctor behind it, there is a nurse behind it, there's a pharmaceutical company behind it now, not yesterday, now. So when you pay me, I service those guys. Now, the problem we have is that you have not paid me for guys that serviced me since 2017. You know, there are people who serviced us since 2017 that have not been paid.
Right.
So those guys who happen to be the same guys who are offering services now, what they tell hospitals is, oh, you've called me for that appendectomy. I will come. But please remember, you owe me money from 2019. So if you really want me to come, do this. You pay me for 2019, then I'm going to come and sort.
And moving on is that 25 people have been hospitalized after eating meat from a dead cow at Masindoni area in Chepalungu, Bomet County. Bomet County Police Commandant Edward Imbwanga says the affected were both children and adults who consumed the carcass of a cow belonging to one of the villagers which had died some days ago after being sick for 2 weeks. Imbwanga said the victims developed running stomach, nausea and vomiting immediately after consuming the meat. Following the incident, the owner of the dead cow, Janeth Terer, was immediately arrested for authorizing the cow to be slaughtered and carcass dispersed to several people in the village. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
There's something magical about finding the place you call home. The place where every laugh echoes, every meal feels like a celebration, and every day brings new memories. A home where milestones matter, such as birthdays, anniversaries, family dinners, and all the moments in between that make life special. At DTB, we understand that a home is not just an address. It's the place where you build your life. With an interest rate as low as 9% and up to 105% financing, own your dream home with DTB. You can call us on 0719 031 888 or email us on mortgages@dtbafrica.com or visit our website at www.dtbafrica.com. DTB. Bank with us. Bank on us.
Some days just have you feeling, you know the ones. Very few aha moments. Just moments. Maybe even a few Because how can a day this good feel so meh? But then, you realize your moment of escape is a cup of indulgence away. Delamere.
Get lost in rich, creamy, flavorful bliss with every spoonful of Delamere real fruit yogurt. Indulge in the moment.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 7 minutes after 9 o'clock and into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. Live streams have been up since, the click of 6 and still continue on YouTube, on Facebook and on X. And our audience is on KTN this morning. CT has been waving this wand of diamond dust all morning. And who's to say that it should stop now? CT, wave ahead.
Well, diamond dust refers to value. And there are very few things that are considered as valuable as owning a home. And the dust that I want to sprinkle in your direction comes from Diamond Trust Bank. They're saying this, if you're interested in buying a house, if you're interested in owning a home, we have a mortgage scheme that could interest you. It has the following features. 1, it covers those who are employed. It covers those who are self-employed. It covers those who are in the diaspora. If you are employed, the program offers you a loan of up to 105%. Meaning 100, you buy the property, 5% for all the little nitty-gritty details that are involved in actually getting the money. And if you're in the diaspora, they're saying we will offer you up to 80%. But they say we don't stop there.
Yeah.
We are a financial institution, and we are aware that we are constantly accused as financial institutions for having hidden charges. So we are putting it out there. We do not have hidden charges. And they're also saying that we will charge you an amount in terms of interest, and it will be constant. It will not change. If you take a loan for 10 years, it will be 9%. It won't change.
9%?
9%, single digit. If you take a loan for 25 years, it will be 9.75%. And they're saying, because they have partnered with Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, it makes it possible. Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company are able to get cheaper loans, and they pass on that benefit to you. Now, they're also saying this, look, bless you, you probably need to verify what I'm saying. And to do this, just go to any Diamond Trust Bank branch anywhere. Seek this information, and you will be given. If you do not want to walk physically, then let your fingers do the walking. Send an email. The email is to mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Your wand has done amazing things this morning, CT. We don't know what instrument you will have tomorrow, but for today, we congratulate your wand and, we'll go with it. Spreading all this diamond dust and great information. The voice that you were hearing, who now is interested in that 9% mortgage, courtesy of DTB, is that of Erastus J.O. Mwencha. He is the former deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission, and he joins us this hour. Good morning, Bwana Mwencha.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you.
How are you doing?
Much better.
Much better than when?
I had a flu last week, but now I'm doing much better.
Much better. Well, I'm glad that you're doing better, up and at 'em, as we say. And thank you for being here this morning. It's been a long time coming, but glad that you could join us today.
Thank you so much.
We're looking at the ramifications of Raila Odinga's AUC loss, and not just on the man, but on the geopolitical scene, or the regional political scene. And so we'll get into that conversation later. But first, we want to give you a little bit of work to do. Is that okay?
Yeah, so long as it's not so difficult work.
No, okay, well, we'll see. CT goes to a different African country every week. He comes back with a basket full of proverbs to one particular country.
Okay.
He's from a particularly interesting country this week. He'll tell you what that is. And then you'll tell us what you think about this proverb and how you would interpret it. Is that too much?
Please proceed.
Okay.
Yes. This country had a leader who was known, for those who studied history. His name was Mansa Musa.
Mansa Musa, okay.
Yes.
I'm starting to have an idea.
Yes, you're beginning to have an idea. This particular country, at some point, had a very, very interesting name, actually. It was actually called the Sudanese Republic. And one of the reasons why it was called the Sudanese Republic, it was actually merged with the country we now refer to as Senegal. The country I'm referring to is Mali.
Yes.
The Republic of Mali.
Yes.
Okay. A very interesting country, the 8th largest country by mass on the continent. Okay. Now the proverb: he who longs too much for a child will marry a pregnant woman.
Are you looking in my direction?
This is now the work.
I'm actually going beyond looking in direction. I'm actually looking at you.
That's right.
Yeah. First of all, Mali is a very interesting place. You know, if you talk of Timbuktu,
Yes.
it was center of trade and civilization in those old days.
Thank you.
Yes.
It was, in fact, scholarly learning. It was a center for actually the religion of Islam. It was what Constantinople was in Europe for Christianity.
Yes.
As many people do not know this, but thank you.
Yeah.
It is true.
Yes. Now, to me, that kind of implies some anxiety. That if you are too anxious, you know, there is a saying that if there's one particular experiment that was done, some little children were given mesmero, and they were told, don't touch it until after a certain time. But some could not resist. They went ahead and opened and chewed it up.
Yeah.
A study revealed that later on, those who managed to resist that temptation actually performed much better in life because they had patience. So if you lose patience in terms of waiting, you tend to make mistakes. I don't know whether you are laughing, and I was thinking that your gray hair perhaps comes with a lot of wisdom. Can you help me?
My gray hair simply comes with age. Yes. Wisdom is an added value that doesn't necessarily follow gray hair, but
maybe in this particular case, yes.
No, but you dissected the proverb beautifully.
Very beautifully.
Thank you. Yes,
I love it.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, again, thank you for being here, Bonaventure, and even as we get into this conversation. So the 15th of February came, it went, it had the results, it bore the results that some were expecting, others were not. And you, having sat in the deputy position of this particular seat, understand the workings of the AUC very well. But then here we are 2 weeks later, maybe 1 week later, and I have to ask the question, should we still be dealing with the hangover of the AUC loss at this point, or should we not be able to drink some water and move on?
I think it's a bit of both. We should dust ourselves and move on. But the reason I say a bit of both, we should also take lessons from what has happened, so that in the future we don't perhaps fall into the same pitfall as we did.
What are the pitfalls?
There are many, and if you allow me then to step back, I would say the campaign was fantastic.
Okay.
Support was more than adequate. But I think along the way we faltered and we didn't listen to the ground carefully to see what had shifted as we continued on that journey towards Addis Ababa. And I would see it from a number of angles. First of all, you have to look at it, the candidate, the country, and the geopolitics of the region. I would say, without a doubt, knowing the three candidates that were on the ballot, and I know the three of them very well. I've worked with them in my previous incarnation. And as a matter of fact, one of them was working with me when I was at COMESA as Secretary General. I would say Kenyan candidate was the best. And so the continent has perhaps missed an opportunity of having the best of the services in terms of leadership, vision, transformation, and the rest. But then when it comes to geopolitics, the way I see it, and this is where I said we didn't listen to the ground, the campaign out what I would call exogenous factors, which were not in any way the making of the candidate, came into play. Some of this could be what was happening in the region, and some of the decisions that we had made as a country stood in the way. And then I think the last part, which I would also look at the campaign itself, it's good to do a marathon, but you must have energy for finishing kick.
Indeed.
I used to run cross country when I was young, and you could see people losing once they see the tape ahead of them, that people come and overtake them. I saw that happening. And I'm sure many of you saw that in the first round. We were leading, and then thereafter we lost. In other words, we didn't have a strategy on how to finish strong.
Right. Does it have any bearing? And we've had the pundits and the analysts over the last 2 weeks talk about how then Kenya's diplomacy then has taken a major hit, and that Kenya's position with the Rex, Kenya's position with regional bodies then has taken a hit diplomatically in terms of practice and form.
I wouldn't say that what is happening at the moment in terms of the diplomatic, what we might say, scenario that is now obtaining, all comes from Addis Ababa. But it played a role in Addis Ababa because maybe the stand we are taken on some of the issues, whether it was Gaza, played a role in some of the countries. Maybe the position we were taken in terms of the crisis in DRC played a role. And maybe the position we are taken in the case of Sudan also could have played a role in the geopolitics. But you see, one would have overcome that because normally when you are well known as a candidate, the country might weigh on your candidature, but also your personality can overcome that. And this is where I thought we could have been able to overcome this.
But there's some who argue that our local politics also had a role to play. The fact that President William Ruto came out boldly for Raila Odinga. In certain instances, there are certain analysis that comes out to say perhaps the role of President William Ruto strongly, even in just Addis, etc., and other conventions, also might have come out strongly in as far as our local politics playing on and Raila Odinga's candidature was concerned. Is that something that you speak to?
There is an element, one would say, that the campaign was heightened by the huge support that the candidate received from the head of state. Nothing unusual about that.
Yeah.
But of course, you could say, that heightened support raised one or two queries in some quarters. People saying, "Hi, is the candidate himself prepared, or is he, being retired of the position?" I would call it. But that's not true, because what I noticed of him, right from the beginning, I'm privy to the fact that he was very keen to go. I had some conversation with him even before the candidature was announced. So it was self-made, not that it was imposed on him to go. Whether he received the support thereafter is now word under the bridge.
Okay. The question that has been lingering in my mind, this particular position, is it the quest for a Pan-African civil servant, or is it a quest for a political individual who can fit into a public service role?
A very good question. And in the transformation of the Organization of African Unity,
yes,
to the African Union Commission, and I was privy to some of the conversation that took place, because as Secretary General of COMESA and regional economic communities are seen as part and parcel of the African Union project. And so I used to attend many of the programs and meetings that led to the transformation from OAU to AUC. And if you follow that time, which was led largely by leaders like Obasanjo, Mbeki, to some extent Gaddafi, and people like the former president of Senegal, Wade. They had a vision of having a very strong commission. And that's why the first chair of the commission was President Konare. So that was intentional, very much intentional, to have a commission that has the capacity to be able to solve some of the challenges the continent has, particularly in the area of peace and security, coordinate integration, and bring about harmony in the continent. But I would say, and my team, we were the first team to succeed after the Konare administration. You could see that there was an easiness to have a former head of state as the chair of the commission.
Why?
Because perhaps he could bypass certain what I could call bureaucracies and talk directly to heads of state and government, be able to move things, and in foreign affairs. I never worked in Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've been international civil servant through and through. I think they always would prefer that you go through them. If you are going to talk to a head of state, they wouldn't like to find a call coming from State House to say, hey, we've received this information from Addis. And so they felt uneasy. And it was also difficult for President Konare to be able to call a minister, and say, look, I want to do this and that. Please, can you talk to head of state? When he had their numbers directly, he could work with them. And so that, I think, you could see that uneasiness. And I could also perhaps decipher that was one of the reasons why Konare didn't want to seek even a re-election. I have no proof of that.
Okay.
But I could tell reluctance and frustration in him. Our administration, we kind of tried to do that and work with the bureaucracy. And the only thing then you fall into, things don't move as fast as you would. In fact, you would see that AU has been sliding.
It has been on a very distinct downward trajectory.
Regrettably.
So when you look at then now that downward trajectory that the AU has been taking, I mean, I've said that for very long, that there's certain factors that then affect, the positioning of the AU. For example, where a lot of its funding comes from. The fact that it's made up of, very, very many nations have joined the union who, number one, have not been able to sort out things in their backyard. Number two, when we talk about regional coordination, also have issues here and there. That you have the RECs who form the regional bodies, but they're not able to come together in source of agreement. Does that not affect the AU completely? And then are we looking at somebody then who'd be able to come and bring about the unity of which is in the name in the first place? Was that the agenda to say bring somebody who would then be able to come and unite the EU, try and get as many nations to bring in their contributions, because we know where a lot of the funding for the AU comes from? Are we not looking at a body, for example, which already is weakened in its very composure because of the fact that, number one, the funding comes externally. Number two, the bodies that make up the nations that make up the AU are not even united?
Thank you for those remarks. You have asked quite a number of questions in your profound statement. One of them is the funding. Yes, true. AU is the strength of AU is reflected in the strength of the member states themselves. If you look at the budget of Kenya, how much foreign aid do we get in the budget? You saw the other day when USAID pulled out or was dismembered. A number of countries were shocked to find that they were supporting a large portion of their sectors of health and the rest. So that is also a reflection of the AU. But I must say that a lot of effort has been made to close that. Even before we left, I remember in 2015, I was still at the AU. The member states took a decision, and which was being implemented now, that only programs could be financed partially by members, by international community. A large portion of it must be contributed by member states. For instance, when it comes to payment of salaries and all these running expenses, it is 100% by member states. But when it comes to programs, by their nature, some programs may require some of foreign component, they are financed externally. But I would say that you still find, if you look at the development expenditure, because recurrent expenditure is only about 35% of the budget, but that 65%, a large portion of it is external. That weakens you. Because as they say, who pays the piper calls the tune. Yeah, which is true in a way. But you also raised another question, the composition of member states.
Yes.
Unlike, for instance, the European Union, where member states are prepared, made ready to join the bus, the African Union, everybody was in the bus right from 1963.
Yes.
So you could not offload anybody to say, go and be ready to come and get into the bus. So since they are all in the bus, you have to keep on hoping that they have enough fare to continue the journey. And of course, some of them to run out, but you can't offload them. So you carry them, and so it's dead weight in a way that they are not contributing to the running of the bus, but they are there. And of course, what you say is true, that a number of countries, and this is one thing I like to quote one leader who says, if you look at the Berlin Conference, which bequeathed us with these nation states, some of them are really suboptimal. Even operating as a country, you go there, you find a country that is struggling to even survive.
Yes.
So that is a reflection, I say.
How do you demand of them to pay an AU contribution?
Exactly. When they have not paid their soldiers or their teachers and the rest. And a number of countries are in that state.
But the question that I want to ask is, let's assume a mythical position where the African countries were able to hold their own in terms of looking after their own citizenry. Would we be in a position to actually run our affairs from our own coffers?
In Africa?
Yep.
I want to believe that if you look at particularly the Kibaki administration from 2002 to 2007, the country moved to almost 95% of financing its budget.
Yes.
That, of course, happened. And, of course, even that time, a number of programs were initiated, infrastructure and the rest. So, and I know a number of countries like Botswana that have been running, actually, a surplus budget. So, the short answer to your question, yes, you can. And a number of countries have done it in the continent. But I must say, by and large, which is true, is that most countries are donor dependent.
You see, they are made to be donor dependent because with the donor assistance comes also the stagnation of your own ability because of dependency.
Correct.
Yes. So my question was actually two-pronged in the way I asked it. If indeed I look at associations that are similar to the AU, let's talk EU, okay? There's a way in which, even as they contribute, member states that perhaps may not have the same resources as the others still contribute and still benefit as members of that particular institution. But there's an ethos that lends itself to how that particular working is. But ours, given just the turmoils that we see in member states from time to time, the country that I've taken the proverb from, they have had issues, they have pending issues as we speak, they have neighbors who have similar issues. Now, are we saying that the constant state of instability that many African countries find themselves in is a huge contributor to this discussion about contribution?
Yeah, what you say is fundamental, and I want to agree with you to a very large extent, but add this caveat. If you look at the budget of the African Union, when I was there, we were running a budget of about $1 billion per year. But peace and security, of course, consumed much more. Peace and security, sometimes we needed about $2 billion or more, depending on, for instance, if we had AMSOM and such like. There was a time we had the African force in Mali and all that. Peace tends to consume quite a bit. Now, if you talk of $1 billion, of a continent that has a GDP of 3.5 trillion. It's a very small portion.
Yep,
it is.
We even had come up with the formula when before I left that just take 0.2% of your tax, your import, tax, and ring fence it for the African Union. In fact, it came up to a very big figure, running into billions. And then, but of course, then we said, you don't have to send that to the African Union. It's a very small figure, but collectively for the continent, it's a very big amount. You can retain some of the money that you need from there for running regional type of projects, because each country has regional type of projects. For instance, if you have a road linking between Kenya and Uganda, that's a regional project.
Sure.
Can be financed from that. But then send it to Addis Ababa, that portion which is required. And the member states, it's the council ministers that meet, approve the budget of the African Union. That which you have approved, transfer enough for that. And they continue to use that collection to support the continent. And you can do it.
Let's take a break on that point.
Sad to tell you, it's lack of political will.
Political will.
Yeah, I mean, let's not beat about the bush.
Indeed. Let's come back and open that just a little bit more. We'll take a break at this point and then come back to look at that, because I think it's a big ticket item when you're looking at politics at a national scale, regional scale, global scale. What do you really want to do? Erastus J. Omencha is the former deputy chair of the African Union Commission, and we're looking at, post loss of Kenya's position in the person of Raila Odinga for the chair of the AUC. What next? Essentially is what we're looking at today. Veto FX says to you today, you know what? Drop all this problem that you had when you were not sure how to make payments for your business. Whether you're a small business, whether you're a medium business, whether you're a large international corporation, Veto FX has the answer for you in terms of how you can make your payments. You don't have to worry that it's going to take you days for it to reach. You don't have to worry that there'll be hidden charges, or that there'll be high costs, or that you can't operate in one country to the other or in a different currency, because with 49 different currencies available in 190 plus countries, this platform of Veto FX ensures that you will have seamless transactions for your business, and that in minutes business can actually be done. Get onto the website today, www.vetofx.com, and start to look in how you can actually make some of these things happen. Good morning. It's 26 to 10.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Are you a young person looking to unlock your potential? Are you ready to take the future in your hands? If so, then listen up. KCB to Jejiri is the plan. It's designed to empower young people like you, develop skills and knowledge you need to succeed in life. KCB to Jejiri combines vocational skills training, business development training, access to finance and business mentorship, preparing youth for jobs, entrepreneurship and wealth creation. Don't be left out. Visit kcbgroup.com/foundation to learn more.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
1 million people into the job market every year, and unfortunately sometimes don't have the skills that they need to be able to connect with opportunities for work and business. So the KCB Foundation saw this gap and they said, you know what, how about we offer you 6 months training at, a number of TVETs around the country. 6 months training, get the skills that you need in automotive engineering, in masonry, in construction, in beauty and design, all sorts of things. Get the particular skills that you would desire to then be able to make the connection for a job or then into business. Do that, and then when you're done, let's give you a toolkit. Let's give you a little bit of credit. Let's make sure that you get well on your way to starting your business, or let's connect you with a job in different parts of the country. Because what happens is that you get an opportunity that you would not have ordinarily gotten without the skills training that you need. So under the 2G Ajiri program, youth between the ages of 18 and 35 get an opportunity to connect and start to work. And you can too. What you need to do is get onto the website. It's kcbgroup/foundation. Get to know more about the 2G Ajiri program and how you can lock in. Our conversation this hour continues with Erastus J. Omwencha, who is the former deputy chair of the Africa Union Commission. And we're looking at, post February 15th, when that was given, here we are, that result was given, and here we are looking into what can be done. African Union takes center stage of a lot of the conversations that are happening currently around the world. We see the wave of nationalism that is happening across Europe. We see the same thing that essentially gave Donald Trump another stab at the presidency. And then the question is, why not Africa taking up that same position whereby nations can believe in themselves and essentially form a continental bloc that could compete with the world? What stops us, Bonamwencha? And we came off the break when you talked about political will. For me, that's one of them. But
our weakness has been, I would say, comprises a number of facets. One of them is the fact that we never really, we gained a flag independence, but not economic independence. I can see you smiling and just wondering what that means.
I'm definitely smiling. Yes.
Kwame Nkrumah said, since you talk of the heritages from the past, say that until we gain economic independence, we'll continue to be hooked to the colonial government. It's ironic that 65 years later on, we are still lamenting on that. But we have seen the wave of what's happening in West Africa and the rest, where countries are trying to get out of the yoke that was developed with the, particularly, Francophone countries. Because many of them, you look at, they still run on the currency that they inherited from there.
Right.
The mineral resources are committed to those countries. And governance structures and even education is still part of the Western culture. We have not reclaimed our culture from colonial heritage. You and I are still Anglo-Saxon as they come. You may not believe it. That's why we're speaking in English today. We should be speaking in Swahili here today, but we're not. But that is not enough. A number of countries, the question then asks, why are, for instance, if you look at countries in Asia, have developed much faster than Africa? The second one then is the leadership that we have inherited over the years. That's another facet. If you look at some of the regions, call it Southern Africa and Northern Africa, we have leaders, particularly those freedom party movements, who came into office believing that they were entitled and all the... It has been very difficult to change some of those. And so you have continued to have, in short, poor leadership in the continent.
All right.
The third one, of course, the international global economic architecture has not been very favorable to Africa. Those who set the rules, whether it was the institutions that they created after the Second World War, were created in such a manner that Africa would just be a price taker. And look at whether it is trade, it is not South flows. In terms of manufactured goods, we provide raw materials. So we haven't come, and that's one of the reasons why integration was initiated, so that Africa working together. In fact, Nkrumah said, if we don't have political independence, it will also be difficult to achieve economic independence. And he advocated that we start with a United States of Africa.
Okay.
But that project was defeated by, among others, Nyerere, who felt that let's start with regional economic communities. Regional economic communities have made progress, but not fast enough. And to the irony of things, they are now balkanizing the continent along regional economic communities. So there are many.
All right.
I can see you want to ask more.
Because
so let's go into that.
I'm just particularly curious as far as unity is concerned, and the states having their own self-interest. And this came out to play out even during the elections, because we have the African Union, but I think one of my colleagues also spoke on the interest of each state. And looking at how the voting pattern turned out, I'm just coming back there because you vote. Because what is the role of the chairperson? Administration promoting its objective of the AU, dealing with key stakeholders, that is member states, development partners, etc. Now, if they were to vote, if they voted based on their interests, does that have anything whatsoever for Kenya to learn in terms of alignment? I'm just curious to understand in terms of unity vis-a-vis self-interests of the states within the AU.
There is a way that you can still play the two.
Yes.
Without sacrificing the greater good for the continent.
Okay.
In other words, self-interest doesn't have to die for any country to be able to still play a role as a common good. Let me give you an example, even the way we promote our candidatures within the continent.
Okay.
Diplomacy does not allow me to be naming countries, but for today I'll do it.
We appreciate it.
Look at, for instance, the way Rwanda goes about promoting its candidates for international positions. Today, as we speak, Rwanda is heading Francophonie. Rwanda is at the helm of the continent as Executive Secretary of Economic Commission for Africa. But also Rwanda is occupying the position, as we speak, of Deputy Chairperson of the African Commission. How does this happen? As a country, you must, I see us saying we want to promote jobs in the diaspora and the rest. I guess we are only looking for technical menial jobs. But as a country, we are very strategic. You can map up all international organizations and say, how do we promote Kenyan interest in those positions? And prepare people for that position. And once you prepare them, and so long as you want to pick the best, you'll always get them. And that's what Rwanda does, for instance. Goes, and you have to have a long shot at that. I'll tell you, for instance, this candidature that we just talked about, I saw Kenya campaign like no another time. I can tell you for a fact, when I was campaigning to be deputy chairperson of the African Union, I received very little support from the government.
Okay.
Very little. Not a penny. The only thing I remember that was given to me, there was a reception organized in Addis Ababa that brought together the ambassadors in the diplomatic community, where I was asked to come and address. Plus, of course, the fact that my candidature was submitted by the government. But that is the best that was done. So there is, as a country, we have not developed a good strategy of how to make sure that we position ourselves to occupy certain positions. And you go for it as a long-term strategy. And as a long-term strategy, you have to expose people, prepare them, so that when that time comes, you have the best lined up for that position. So self-interest doesn't mean you have to give candidates because they come from your village or for some other reason. So that's part of, we don't have a very good strategy for that matter.
There's always the talk when we refer to our continent. There's always talk about external influences.
Yes, true.
And whenever we talk of external influences, one talks about Europe, one talks about America, one talks about China, one talks about Russia. My question is, are these the only influence we have? Because if I look at the conversations even within the EU and whatever took place and I look at some of the difficulties we've had in the Horn of Africa and some of the difficulties we're now having in Sudan, other players and the mention of other names keep coming in. Now, for someone to have influence, you must have given them some leeway to have that influence.
Yes.
What is our weakest spot? What is it that makes us succumb to these influences in a way that actually destabilizes the continent even as we see it?
Yeah. First, you talked about external, factor, and which is a reality. I mean, if you think of the African Union position, it attracts a lot of international interest.
Yes.
And some of it is because Africa is now become a center of attraction internationally because of its wealth, and but the fact that also they are very keen to join the journey of integration for their own interest, of course.
Yes.
They are not all the time that they join it for the purpose of goodwill for you, but their own goodwill. And because of that, they would have influence. I would not be surprised when you hear of Francophonie, where it is also other countries putting in a word to say this is a candidate that we think would be okay. But I would say that is diminishing quite a bit. A number of leaders, tend to have a mind of their own. A number of leaders, I said, and that's true. But a few of them perhaps might succumb to that kind of influence.
Right.
But I think what you mentioned, particularly as internal weaknesses, as a continent, and this is where we make mistakes. For instance, if you look at the African Union, and I've seen that happen with some of the regional economic communities, there is this quest that I must have my person occupy that position. And that person, you are not doing it because you need the good of that institution. It's because you need to occupy that position. It's my turn. And one of the things I was disappointed with the African Union, particularly in the last election, is this question of rotation. That East Africa, North Africa, Southern Africa, you are balkanizing the continent. Get the best out of the continent. The moment you do that, I've seen regional economic communities where they rotate secretarial positions or chairmanship, you get weak candidates occupying those positions because you are not getting the best. So yes, you are right. I mean, there's that conflict, tension between self-interest, parochial interests that doesn't really work for the common good.
Why is it important to look at the place a country plays in its regional as well as global politics, aside from its internal politics? Why is that important?
Countries tend to project their own national strength.
Okay.
Forgetting that if you put 3 sticks together, they are stronger than 1 stick. I mean, I've seen in the continent, everybody knows that, for instance, if Africa now start to trade within itself, have a common external tariff, protect itself, and to borrow its own words, Africa first, that you do what US is doing, this nationalism that we see growing, you become much stronger, you negotiate together. But we are so easy to penetrate and infiltrate, and we succumb to those small tokens they give us in the form of aid or threats they may issue, and then we remain weak and disunited. So that is really an inherent weakness. But we need a new wave, and I see that wave coming.
Okay.
I'm not a pessimist that I should give up. When I see integration in the 80s and integration in the 90s, integration now, there came a time, particularly at the end of the Cold War, that integration was losing its momentum. But I can see that momentum picking up. New leaders who are saying, now let's not continue to limp on. Let's stand for our own rights.
And progressively then, having served in your position as well, how do you think we are moving as a country to achieve our agenda, of course, 2063, in terms of like you've said, the leadership that is taking over, etc., what would be, in your assessment, your analysis of our movement as a continent towards Agenda 2063?
I must say, and be very honest here,
yes,
that in spite of a few missteps that as a country makes from time to time, and Kenya has done that, Kenya has been a very good in terms of adhering to the continental and regional integration program. Kenya participates very effectively in regional integration, whether you look at trade. Kenya trades quite a bit with the region, and in fact is overtaken some of the markets that Kenya was exporting to. If you look at our infrastructure, Kenya is a gateway to a number of countries. Kenya has also been very much participating, whether it is in air transport, regional infrastructure, and the rest. Kenya has been very effective in that. But of course, to me, some of the areas that we need to learn is how to play the soft aspect of it. The soft, there is
soft power.
Soft power. So that in a region, we don't go there as, my sisters don't take offense, as big brother, but we go as equals on the partners.
Right.
I sometimes have a feeling some of the countries see us as coming as big brother. We have never learned that lesson of humility, brotherhood, and that. I used to tell some of the delegations when they come to Addis Ababa, they would come and start saying, "What can we do here?" I said, "Don't approach it that way. How can we be of use to you?" That is a mindset, and by the way, is something. If you go to Tanzania, since you talk of countries, they will always tell somebody who has come from Kenya, the way you even your Swahilis, nataka chai, but naomba chai. That humility is not with us.
Okay.
The poverty of spirit, somebody once called it, extends to a people believing in themselves and actually believing that they can actually do something. And oftentimes the problem is we take the cue from the leadership. And much as we may say otherwise, it's what we do. If the leadership is leaning in one direction, then people tend to follow. We may speak the language we're speaking, but do we learn from the people whose language we speak? Because this is the English language. The English practiced colonization among their own long before they actually left their shores to come here. The Welsh, the Scots, the Irish. These people fine-tuned imperialism. By the time they were coming to deal with us, they had understood this thing to a T. And to their credit, they even understood when to leave that particular stage and create something else that would still keep them in power while giving the impression that we are one big happy Commonwealth family. They have understood how to take care of their interests. We speak the language, but we haven't learned how to take care of the interests the way the people who lent us this language have.
Quite right. In fact, if you got the spirit of my earlier intercourse, discussion, I was kind of saying, when we took over as independent states, we just walked into the shoes of the colonial masters. And so the face changed, the skin changed. The colonial masters who were of a different color left, but we inherited those institutions and cherished them and continue to use them.
And you see,
you got some of the countries we still want to perfect things and do things the way they were doing. So you are absolutely right. And that's why I said, unless we come to deconstruct the colonial heritage that we inherently were born into and are assimilated into, we still remain slaves of our old self.
You know the enslavement that you speak of?
Yes.
See, I was segueing into just one little point. The fact that you had a colonizer, an imperialist who understood the need to change, it means this is somebody who is willing to change even more and engage with you on a level that you yourself haven't envisioned engaging them in. Because if we say a country like Botswana has a surplus, They are the same colonizers.
Used to, not now.
Yes, now they have their issues, but they've had it. It means they were able to manage their affairs. You can talk about the population, you can talk about anything, but they did it.
It's a principle.
Correct.
Yes. We look at South Africa, when they decide that they are going to be part of the BRICS, that's an independent way of looking at things. They're saying, look, we understand, but there are things we're not going to do exactly the way you want. I'm simply saying that even somebody who is a power in and of themselves, when they realize that you have your house in order, they change the way they behave towards
Absolutely.
you.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
In other words, what you are saying,
yes,
it is we to blame.
Yeah, that is precisely it.
Yes. Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, and that's why I said we cannot keep on lamenting and regretting that it's the colonial heritage that is keeping us where we are.
No.
But we have not had the will, because the pathway for us, for our independence, is clear.
Yeah.
But we have not chosen that. In other words, I sit one of the earlier vice president, Murumbi, said the road not taken. We didn't take the highway. We chose to borrow the main street, which was to lead us back to the metropolitan.
Yeah.
I'm curious to understand the interpretation of some remarks, I think, by PLO Lumumba back then, that you cannot kill a mosquito with a hammer.
Exactly.
I do not know what do you make of that comment? You cannot kill a mosquito with a hammer in as far as Africa is shaping up.
I have to know the context under which he's talking.
Yeah.
But killing a hammer,
a mosquito,
of course, means bringing overwhelming energy to a very small matter. And I don't know what he sees as small in the continent.
Okay.
But I would not spare an effort for Africa to unite and to move to become one.
Indeed.
In fact, if you look at the people like, and this is known, some people like Gaddafi was zealous to make sure that the continent unites.
Absolutely.
In fact, he poured his energy and resources for the continent to unite.
Yeah.
But it was not popular in the West.
No.
It was not popular in the West. So that is a sacrifice that we must be ready to pay for us, the continent, to achieve. In fact, one of the things that is missing in our quest for integration today is that we don't have that spirit where, as you were growing up, you knew Mwafrika apate uhuru. That uhuru united, the Kralion call, we lack it in the continent.
And it needs to come back.
That we need that Kralion call for the continent.
That's a good conversation to start on in terms of what should actually come in the future, to bring back those times of yesteryears when that voice was actually very loud and came out to actually do something. I want to thank you very much. Erastus J.O. Mwencha has been our guest this hour as we look at then what happens next after this and what should we be looking at for the future in terms of the African Union. We want to have you have a wonderful Monday, and as you take a break later on, have an moment with Delamere. When you take a break later after some work, or whether you're stuck in traffic somewhere, it's breakfast on the go or a great break after work. So have an moment with real fruit in every one of the different flavors, real ingredients for that moment with Delamere. And CT is giving that to you this morning. And we just want to say thank you for joining us and enjoy.
Why have we continued to retain the names like Delamere? I'm not being a racist. I'm not being
I hear you. But for now, enjoy the yogurt. For now,
enjoy it.
For now, Bonaventure, enjoy the yogurt.
Thank you so much.
It's great insight.
Okay.
10 a.m. Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. MPs from the Coast region have urged President William Ruto to give them the opportunity to chair various committees of the National